allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice President McCollum. Welcome, everybody. It is wonderful to see everybody tonight here at the ESC. Our boardroom is packed. Lots of new faces, some familiar faces. Welcome all. I know we have a lot of people in our overflow area. Welcome to you too, who are watching via closed circuit television. And a very special welcome, of course, to everybody who is joining us via our live YouTube feed. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any proposed changes?
Yes, I'd like to propose a change in the agenda.
Mr. Garrett.
All right, thank you. All right, whereas in August of 2021, the Indiana Department of Education, IDOE, sent out a communication to every superintendent and principal in the state of Indiana defining IDOE's position statement concerning critical race theory and condemning the use of critical race and/or tenets of critical race theory in Indiana public schools. Whereas CRT is not included in any of Indiana's academic standards or Indiana employability skills standards, nor is CRT included in any of Indiana's SEL competencies. Whereas for the past 21 months, the PHM School Board has continually ignored a request to put on the agenda a discussion of and a vote in favor of supporting or against supporting the IDOE's memorandum from August of 2021. Whereas Superintendent Thacker in board notes dated February 3rd, 2023, titled Additional Update on CRT, Dr. Thacker states, we have asked principals to share this memo from the IDOE in their SMORE newsletters to PHM families this week, and with this header statement, continued focus on the Indiana academic standards, knowing there is dialogue around the state about the Indiana academic standards. We continue to follow the direction of the Indiana Department of Education, and Dr. Jenner is provided in this letter. If you have any concerns about your child's education, please work with your child's teacher for clarification. So obviously, Dr. Thacker is on board with the IDOE concerning CRT. Therefore, so that the PHM School Board can get on board with Dr. Thacker and the IDOE, I move that we add to tonight's agenda a discussion of and a vote for or against the resolution based on the IDOE memorandum of August 2021 concerning CRT and created by our own board attorney, Jeff Johnson, at my request back in December of 2021. Each of you should have a copy of the resolution.
We do. I recognize the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, there is.
Okay, the resolution having been moved and seconded. Board members, any discussion? I do note before we take a vote that a number of members of our public have asked to address on this particular topic. So I will call on them in the order I received their pre-registrations. For anybody who wants to address the board who has pre-registered to do so, a time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed, and our board attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson, will let you know as your time is expiring. So the first person I'd like to welcome and recognize is Danielle Black.
Hello, my name is Danielle Black. In 2021, I started being maligned with accusations of liberal teaching due to my graduate thesis using critical race theory as a framework for better understanding my students. But the telling part was neither my students nor their parents were the ones bringing those accusations. In fact, when they tried to defend me by sharing what was actually happening in my classroom, they were silenced. I welcome genuine dialogue, even when it's hard, because true accountability makes people better. But what's happening now goes beyond a demand for accountability. I am a communications teacher. As such, I encourage all my students to use their voices. But did you realize that even that could be considered a tenet of CRT? No, critical race theory is not part of my curriculum. But to say a communications teacher shouldn't teach students to use their voices is simply ludicrous. So if we adopt something that specifically forbids the teaching of CRT, I could face disciplinary action for simply doing my job of encouraging all my students to use their voices. This is just one example of why this CRT debate is filled with such uncertainty and confusion for teachers. My standards-based curriculum is helping students, yet for the past year and a half, I fight a debilitating and well-founded fear because of twisted narratives about me personally. Speaking today brings up that terror afresh, but this is too important not to finally speak. For the record, when teachers make mistakes, we are talked to by our administrators, and then, if possible, situations are rectified. For example, last year, when those of you who want a CRT policy presented the board with potentially problematic aspects of our SEL curriculum, it was removed based on the community response. You can trust the teachers of PHM that we are teaching what we say we are. We are educated professionals who understand the incredible responsibility of teaching people's children. Last board meeting, I so appreciated some of you who brought up the teacher shortage. That problem is not going away in the current climate, where we're living under constant fear of being misrepresented. Public school teachers are almost never indoctrinators and should not be feared or fought against based on that erroneous belief, which is what it feels like you're doing when you keep bringing up the need for a CRT resolution when we already know and follow IDOE's guidelines on the topic. Thank you to all of you who understand this and are so supportive. You breed what we truly need: dialogue, humility, and trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Black. Appreciate it. Next up, the board welcomes and thanks Lauren Tarbett.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. My name is Lauren Tarbett, and I live in South Bend. I am the English as a New Language Program Coordinator at Penn High School. I would like to address the issue of implementing a CRT policy for PHM. This topic has been discussed again and again and again. Academically, it is defined as a collegiate level theory, so obviously we would not be discussing it at Penn High School. We are all confused why we would need a policy or a resolution against it. Yet no one seems to be able to define CRT for its use in a policy. So why do some members of the board feel we need a policy against it? If you cannot define it, how can you justify an official policy against it? Having a rule about something indefinable is dangerous. Many people have differing opinions about what CRT is and is not. If we do not agree, then where do we draw the line? Who makes the decision of what is going too far? A policy of this fluid nature would be damaging and harmful to our teachers. My colleagues and I have legitimate fears that our professional methods, topics, and standards will be skewed as teaching CRT simply because someone doesn't like the topic. And who's to stop someone from claiming and escalating that if we have an open, undefinable definition in a policy or resolution? Our students deserve to learn about all facets of history, not just the ones that make us look good. Learning from the past helps us prevent it from happening again. And yes, talking about racial injustice, genocide, and discrimination is tough, but our students deserve a safe space to learn the facts, learn how to analyze and evaluate them, and not gloss over them because they're uncomfortable, so that they can form educated opinions about those facts. These topics are embedded in our state standards, which we strive to meet every single year. Ultimately, we are professionals. We study our state standards and design curriculum to help our students meet those standards. PHM has aligned themselves with the Indiana Department of Education's statement of not teaching CRT. Why is that not enough? We need our families and our school board to trust us to do our jobs, not micromanage us and enact policies that are not beneficial to how we do our job. If you have concerns, please come see us teach anytime. We would love to see you in our classroom communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Much appreciated. Next up, the board welcomes and thanks Don Troyer.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Troyer. I'm a teacher at Penn High School. Being a teacher is challenging. I've been at it for 36 years, and every day I'm met with new challenges. Teens with food insecurities, teens who are suicidal, teens who are questioning everything. Yet, like every other teacher, my challenges don't stop there. Each day, I must also consider, how do I compete with phones, earbuds, video games, social media? Over the last several years, these challenges have been compounded by whispers of CRT. So more than a month ago, a group of Penn staff members sat down with Mr. Garrett and Superintendent Thacker to discuss the concerns that some in the community have. We discussed the process for choosing materials and also the current system in place that allows parents to object to materials for their own child. Finally, after almost an hour of amiable discussion, we agreed that all principals in the corporation would share a statement pertaining to the teaching of CRT with parents and staff, and that any issues that arose regarding the teaching of CRT would be dealt with in the same way that other disciplinary issues are dealt with, in-house between administrators and teachers. Several weeks passed without the issue resurfacing, but at the board meeting last month, Mr. Garrett reversed his stance. Why? Has something happened in our corporation that makes this an urgent matter? Or are you, Mr. Garrett, simply reacting to events elsewhere? If so, why do you base your trust of us as professionals on situations elsewhere? You have consistently professed your belief that this corporation and its teachers are the best, the crown jewel of the North, I think you say. Are you really treating teachers like the crown jewel of the North? In addition to all the challenges I mentioned earlier, you are throwing another in our path. For me personally, it's no longer a matter of considering my students and what's best for them when I choose titles to teach, but instead I must focus only on scrutinizing every page, every sentence to assure that the content won't be seen through a questionable scope. And let's face it, as Ray Bradbury wrote about in Fahrenheit 451, under these kinds of volatile conditions, no book is safe because it's bound to offend someone. Last month, one of the board members warned that putting in place a resolution for CRT could have longstanding and unforeseen consequences for teachers, students, and the corporation because the definition of CRT is extensive, diverse, and malleable. I hope that calmer heads will prevail and the board will continue to recognize the excellence of this corporation's teachers, administration, and parents by allowing them all to do their job. Teachers to choose materials and to teach, administrators to oversee those choices and correct problems or concerns, and parents to continue overseeing their children's education and advocating for them by using the process already in place. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Troyer. Next up, the board welcomes and thanks Kelly Watts.
Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board, my name is Kelly Watts. I'm a teacher at Penn High School. Thank you for allowing us a moment to speak tonight about the CRT resolution. It was in February that a group of teachers from many content areas across Penn High School sat down with Mr. Garrett. We were concerned that he continued to bring this topic up as we felt it brought doubt to the community that maybe something was going on that we were not being truthful. It was a great afternoon to sit and hear his concerns, for us to share our concerns with you, Mr. Garrett, and to have an open dialogue about this very important topic. 100% of people in that room agreed that CRT should not be taught at Penn High School, nor in any building in Penn-Harris-Madison. So after a very long hour and a lot of back and forth on things and a lot of discussion and our concerns being shared of how a possible policy could pinhole us and put us into danger, we all agreed that the letter that the state superintendent, Dr. Jenner, sent out be shared with all teachers again, shared with parents and students, and that this discussion was over. It was disheartening when I tuned into the board meeting last month to yet hear once again this topic be revisited. There have been no recent concerns brought to the attention of the administrators or even to you, Mr. Garrett, as we asked you, were you being brought concerns? And you answered us with no. Having a school board policy about something we have been told not to teach, that we are not teaching, feels like a lack of trust in your teachers. We work hard to strive for excellence every day. We work hard to ensure that every child is successful. A policy for something we are not doing does not feel like you support your teachers and that you're a teacher advocate, as every single one of you has claimed to be. We would love to come back each month and continue to tell you about all the amazing and exciting things we are doing and stop talking about the things we're not. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Watts. Next up, we have Kylie Ham.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time. My name is Kylie Ham, and I do teach a college-level history course at Penn High School. I felt compelled to speak today as a historian, a teacher, and a mother of a PHM student, because I'm very concerned about a pattern of community and school board members using the term CRT in ways that are inaccurate and misleading. When professional historians do their work, they read and analyze primary sources to create a historical argument. Different historians approach this task differently. For instance, some historians ask how economic issues impact historical events. Some focus on culture or social history or gender or politics or race or socioeconomics. These different lenses or modes of analysis help the historian try to interpret and understand historical issues. Critical race theory, or CRT, started as a legal theory and has since been utilized as a historical lens for some historians and scholars. It is one lens that exists in a field of many for analytical studies. CRT is not a new theory. It was born in the 1980s, much like I was. So my question is, why are some members of the school board and community suddenly concerned with an academic lens that's as old as I am? Why is this one theory being singled out as a catch-all term? Now, if you have taken the time to read and understand the works of critical race theorists and you fundamentally disagree with their conclusions, that is a valid stance. Valid is trying to wholesale ban ideas in the classroom. Classrooms are centers of learning, debate, and developing the skills to participate in American civil discourse. Civil discourse includes patience, open-mindedness, compromise, and mutual respect. It is engaging in conversation to seek and foster mutual understanding. I worry immensely when this seems to have completely gone out the windows at these meetings surrounding CRT. To ban a discussion of an entire lens of analysis seems very anti-democratic to me and very far away from our ideal of civil discourse. As a mother in this district, I find this anti-CRT rhetoric disturbing at best and sinister at worst. As a teacher and historian in this district, I find myself demoralized and frustrated that rather than discussing concerns with teachers, this seems to be a tool in a campaign to discredit the professionalism of hardworking teachers in this district. If you want PHM excellence, then you have to protect honest and open dialogue for all, not just for those who are the loudest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much. That concludes all of the pre-registrations that I think that I have. I will pause for a moment, and anybody who's pre-registered to speak on this topic, please come forward. Okay, fair enough. Board members, any further discussion based on public comment?
Yeah, may I address some of the issues that were brought up?
You can, but just remember that right now we have a motion and a second. It's not actually on the agenda. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's nothing that anyone said there that I don't agree with 100%. You know, I'm a teacher too. I taught in this system for 43 years. My job or my goal on school board is to imbue. It's like, this is not my idea. This is not something I came up with. This is presented to us, every school in the state, by our IDOE, which leads us. They determine our standards. So if it was good enough for them, or they felt that we needed to have something put out about the critical race theory. I mean, are you arguing with the idea? Now, as far as making it into a school board policy, to me, that protects our teachers. If it's just a guideline, if it's something you can do or can't do, or whatever, you know, you have no protection. If you know exactly what the standards are, you know what you can do and what you can't do. You know, it's like I've tried to explain before, you know, in the classroom, you have standards. If you don't have a tardy policy and a kid comes in tardy, how are you going to discipline them? You can't say you can't be tardy. People say, well, what do you mean? You don't have a rule about that. So we're defining what we're saying, that the IDOE definition of CRT is the one that we should use. Nothing more, nothing less. That's it. It's just like if you look at the resolution we passed back in 2020, July 1st, you know, there's lots of terms in there that have no definition. No one defines let's see, racial justice in that. How do you know that the teachers at Penn are all conforming to this resolution? You know, why is anyone worried about this resolution? Whether or not they're able to teach and not worry about violating that resolution, but they're worried about violating the CRT resolution. Like I said before, my goal here, and like I said before, I was pretty excited when Dr. Thacker did this back in February, but I'll be honest with you, after I saw all the hidden camera reviews that were going on a month or so ago about how teachers and other corporations, administrators and other corporations were trying to hide the fact that they were doing maybe CRT or whatever, but calling it other things so that parents would know what they were doing. I guess that made me realize that we need to have a resolution that gives you a standard to go by. If you're a coach, you have standards. Now, when I coached, I had standards. Everybody knew what was expected. If we have a standard here, you'll know what's expected. If you look at the resolution concerning the eradicating segregation, eradicating racism, you know the standard. That's the standard. We go by that. And we need a standard for CRT as well. It's a protection for the teachers. Whether you realize that or not, I'm doing this for you. And you're probably saying, well, don't help me. Okay, I got you. But the reality is, as a teacher, and the thing is, if someone comes up and says, hey, you're doing this wrong, you can't do that, you can say, yes, I can. The school board says I can. It gives you protection from criticism of other people as long as you're staying within the framework of the IDOE guideline, which I assume you're doing that already. Say you are. So what's the big deal about having a standard that protects you?
Your motion is not yet on the agenda. Vote hasn't taken place.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
I would just like to add, I'm not going to elaborate too much long since it sounds like you want to take a vote here rather quickly, but I just want to read what the Indiana Department of Education states. It says, in Indiana, K through 12 schools are required to teach the Indiana academic standards and the Indiana employability skills standards. Neither set of standards include critical race theory. Critical race theory is not designed for elementary, middle, or high school students. Additionally, the state of Indiana will not support, condone, or fund anything that alienates, discriminates, or negatively divides students based on race or background. Goes on to say, however, we fully support Indiana and ethnically diverse communities and believe all Hoosier students benefit from learning a full and factual account of our country's historical events, shortcomings, and progress. So as the resolution that was put together originally back in December of 2021, the resolution simply is taking what the IDOE put in a memo that Dr. Thacker clearly agreed with. He had the principals send out some more newsletters in February. All we are doing as a school board is saying, hey, we support that too. So if fellow board members, you don't stand with that and you are disagreeing with what the Indiana Department of Education flat out said and issued. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. Other school board members? Okay, the motion that is in front of the board now is a motion to amend the agenda, to add to the agenda as an action item, a proposed resolution regarding critical race theory. All those in favor of amending the agenda to include as an action item the proposed resolution regarding critical race theory, please say aye.
Before you vote, I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Fair enough. Roll call vote will be recognized.
Oh,
Ms. Roach, as the secretary of the board, that means it's you.
I can't alphabetize on the spot. Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
I vote nay.
Mr. McCall, how do you vote?
I vote nay.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
I vote nay.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Yay.
I vote nay. Mrs. Sullivan, how do you vote? Nay. Mr. Chaffee, how do you vote?
Yay.
Motion is defeated by a vote of 5-2. Administration, any changes to the proposed agenda?
The administration has no changes.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Board members, any changes or additions to the minutes from the April 19, 2023 executive session, April 24, 2023 executive session, and regular board meeting? Hearing none,
The
administration.
administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 19, 2023 executive session and the April 24, 2023 executive session and regular board meeting as presented?
I so move. I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next up is superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. It is so good to see all of you. This is going to be a very exciting, terrific board meeting, and welcome to all of you. This is an exciting time because we have coming with us is the last report from our amazing student board ambassador, Kiara Van Eschenbach. Before leaving here, is going to go to Georgetown University. Welcome, Kiara.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker. Oh. Thank you. Sorry. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. I am pleased to share some academic and athletic highlights with you tonight. Starting off in academic news, 5 students were honored at the Mishawaka Main Library for their artwork entered in the Holocaust Remembrance Act and Writing Awards. Congratulations to Augie Covert, Miranda Hanchar, Timothy Garadot, Etta Forey, and Noah Chalulu. Congratulations also to all early college students who graduated recently with their associate's degree from Ivy Tech. In athletic news, Penn girls tennis took home their 16th consecutive sectional title, and Penn boys track also won sectionals, with the 4x1 team setting a new sectional record. Penn Unified Track placed 3rd in sectionals and will now advance to the regional competition on May 27th. Congratulations to all Penn sports teams for their amazing accomplishments this school year. Finally, in Kingsman Court news, we have had a very successful senior sunrise this year and are excited and eagerly planning next year's homecoming dance. Penn has historically not had a homecoming dance since the early 2000s, so we are very excited for its return. Before I conclude and introduce the next year's school board student ambassadors for the 2023 to 2024 school year, I would like to say a few words of gratitude for the board and all of PHM on behalf of the 2023 graduating class. Having attended PHM through elementary, middle, and now high school, I am fully appreciative of the education, relationships, and opportunities I have received as a part of PHM. On behalf of all my classmates, thank you to the teachers, janitors, nurses, bus drivers, and all PHM staff who have supported us through this endeavor. The success of all of my peers are a true testament to the excellence of PHM schools, and I would like to emphasize our trust in our teachers and encourage all to do so. This success is only possible with them. Finally, I'd like to thank the board and administration for your leadership. It has been a pleasure working with you all. And with that, I would like to introduce our 3 new ambassadors for next year, Noah Schaefer, Ashley Mead, and Sarah Mead.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Ashley Mead. I'm a rising senior, and I am happy to introduce myself as your first student ambassador for the 2023 to 2024 school year Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ashley.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Mead. I'm happy to report that I will be your student ambassador for the second term of the 2023-2024 school year. I'm also a rising senior, and thank you for having me.
Hi, my name's Noah Schaefer. I'm going to be a junior next year, and I'm going to be the third student ambassador for the last half of the year, or I guess last third of the year. And I'm excited to work with you guys.
So thank you, and that's all I have for you tonight.
Well, Kiara, before you go, we'd like to borrow one more moment of your time and just thank you from the bottoms of our hearts for all that you've done. You're just such an incredible person. We appreciate the fact that you've spent all this time working with the board and keeping us informed on what's going on at Penn High School and within our system. We wish you the absolute best at Georgetown and beyond. God bless you always. We're going to miss you. So is it okay if Dr. Thacker and I have our picture taken?
Yes,
with you?
yes.
Give her a pen there. That one?
Yeah. Here. Just a little gift by which to remember us.
Oh, thank you.
I can defer for 10 years.
You're a shareholder.
We always talk about a triangle of success that connects students, teachers, and parents. We have a perfect example right here with an amazing student. And who's this photographer back there?
That's my mom.
Who's that handsome guy with him?
That's my dad.
Guys, stand up. Thanks for being so great. Already attest to the fact she has great teachers. So
Yes.
Thank you. We're so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Thacker, should we give one with Ashley and Sarah?
These are amazing students as well. Glad that you're here.
They have a lot of pressure to top tier students. A lot of pressure.
Do you have any guests here you'd like to introduce?
Yeah, we don't have photographers.
But you will have a triangle pin.
Thank you.
Yes.
We look forward to working with you guys. Take care of yourselves. Have a great summer.
Thank you.
Careful of paparazzi.
Oh, I would love it. Okay, next up, Secondary Teacher of the Year, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Friends, I am so proud to say that we have absolutely phenomenal Teachers of the Year. You know, this year we have a Secondary Teacher of the Year and an Elementary Teacher of the Year. And our Secondary Teacher of the Year is Mr. Eric Bowers. This gentleman who just won his 27th sectional championship as a tennis coach. Why don't you stand, Mr. Bowers? We're going to, in a moment, we're going to make some comments and such. I want to say a few things about him before that. He is an absolutely genius in the classroom. He inspires students. He inspires his colleagues. And when we think of coaching, he coaches both boys and girls. I mentioned 27 sectional championships, 10 regional championships, 4 semi-state appearances, and he's coached the state champion in 2013. That would be Allie Breaker, who went to Xavier. Okay, Coach Bowers was named the 2018 Indiana Boys Tennis Coach of the Year by the Indiana High School Tennis Association. Okay, now we know he's a great coach. He's also a Fulbright Scholar. In 2017, only a handful of people were chosen out of 3,000 applicants. Now, this is a guy you want to hang around with in the summer. He travels, he researches, he studies, he teaches in different countries. One of the countries he went to was in Germany. He also was on a special education project teacher fellowship program regarding genocide. He was in a 10-day intensive professional development program in Armenia. He's scheduled to speak at the National Convention of Social Studies this year in Philadelphia as part of this project. He attended the European Union Conference held in Brussels. Next summer, he's going to participate in the USS Midway Institute for Teachers, which offers educational seminars providing more in-depth information about the Cold War, the wars in Korea and Vietnam, and World War II in the Pacific. He shares his history expertise both as a teacher and as a club sponsor. Can you imagine this guy as your club sponsor? You never want to go home. He's overseeing the Model UN. These kids are phenomenal competitors, and the Social Studies Academic Super Bowl team. Let's see, he's probably one of his favorite things that he does is happening right now. So if you go to Penn High School, I say right now, today and tomorrow, you will see him go back in time, and it will be Penstock. Tie-dye shirts and all kinds of activities. It's really, really a lot of fun. So when you talk to Coach Bowers and Mr. Bowers, the same person who plays dual roles, it is clear that he loves teaching. So I'd like to say we are so proud of you, Mr. Bowers, as the Teacher of the Year, Secondary Teacher of the Year. Congratulations. Please share some words.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Thank you, Mr. Riley. Thank you all the board for having me here. It's fun looking up here. I get to see, people that I work with, people that I have, either children in the classroom. You're making me feel old. People I had as a it's really great to be here and be recognized. I think I have a lot of great colleagues that I work with. Many of them are what we refer to as in the cheap seats in the back, couldn't quite make the room, but hopefully they can hear me and they're cheering back there. Even just looking behind me, we have a lot of people, and I do make sure I thank them. We have one person who I just found out, it was about 21 years ago, that their husband won Teacher of the Year, and she sat there pregnant. Jim Lengthal went around the room and thanked every single person except for his wife. So on behalf of Jim, 21 years old. As mentioned, I do have a lot of help. Lisa is, one of the senior tennis players, mom, so a captain mom. I have my athletic team here, the athletic directors, they, support me, wholeheartedly. We have two new great hires. One of them I was teaching a long time ago. The other one, great hire coming in for the basketball program. You did hear I won 16 in a row, didn't you? So, overall, there's just, a lot of good people, a lot of people that I really, really enjoy calling friends. And, I couldn't be up here without, the help of so many people. So, thank everybody involved. Thank you once again, Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you. We should take a video.
All right, thank you. I'm texting Jude right now saying he better be dressed for Penstock. Out of the house if he's not. Looking good.
So it's a tremendous honor to be recognized by your colleagues. And so we have the Secondary Teacher of the Year. And now I'd like to introduce our Elementary Teacher of the Year, Roby Davidson. And why don't let Roby come forward? And then I'll start talking about you, but you can stand up here and then we'll incredible. He's a great teacher. He's a great musician. He has so many skills and so much passion. He's a phenomenal role model. He's been teaching in PHM for 11 years, and he's really been here almost his entire life. He was a student at Madison Elementary School, Grissom Middle School, graduated from Penn. And we think of him as teaching music at Walt Disney Elementary School for 11 of his 12 years. This is not the first time we surprised him with an award. In 2019, the PHM Education Foundation visited one of his classes to present him with a $2,000 grant check for winning the Janine Arter Teaching and Excellence Award. So he has a pattern here. He's a phenomenal teacher. He's excellence in action, and he is that perfect example of the passion we want in our teachers, dedicated. We're fortunate to have him. He's always busy, and when he's not leading his students in the school ukulele group, running a Walt Disney News Network broadcast, or DJing a school dance or school-wide assembly, he's chairing Walt Disney's signature event. He became the head organizer of Culture Night in 2014, which is an incredible event. At Walt Disney, there are more than 30 different languages spoken in the homes of Disney families. And so the school started Culture Night in 1999, so families of all backgrounds could share their cultures with the entire school community. So now it's a month-long celebration. It's so exciting. He is a former Kingsman, Kingsman Marching Band member. He's also gotten Penn's Fine Arts Academy students involved with band, orchestra, choir, and dance performances. So he helps them entertain with regard to community groups and such. And he also lends his talents to the tuba section for Penn's award-winning marching band and works on the sound design team with the front ensemble. He teaches private tuba lessons to the middle and high school students. So, and with these fifth graders, he watches them continue to grow. He teaches them in high school, and he has that really, it's like a lifelong connection to these young men and women. So it's an incredible treat to watch him teach and to experience the joy and making a difference in the lives of these kids. Roby, we're so proud of you. Congratulations.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. And before anything, I'd like to thank my wife. I am honored and humbled to receive this recognition. This experience has been an incredible one, allowing me to think on and reconnect with so many of those who have impacted me and helped me become the person and the teacher that I am today. Having had the chance to go into more extensive lists the other night, I hope that this recognition this recognition honors those people and organizations as much as it does me, as well as all of those exceptional educators, leaders, and staff in the school system, which we are abundant with. As many of you know, I grew up in PHM and felt very fortunate to have the huge variety of diverse opportunities available to me as a student. And being able to be a part of the school system since around 1996, I can say that the amount of opportunities have only grown. But as sometimes we miss and need to remind ourselves that behind each of these opportunities are incredible people providing them and incredible individuals seizing those opportunities, oftentimes our students. I am inspired by our students, teachers, staff, and the leadership of PHM because, as you say, Dr. Thacker, this does not happen by chance, but by design. And this entire PHM community, including the students, staff, families, have all been a part of maintaining and evolving this design and the excellence we enjoy in PHM today. The key really is these people. As I spoke with my tuba section last week as we prepare to welcome the largest tuba section in our freshman class that we ever have, the more people we invite in, the more potential there can be for toxicity, jealousy, or mistrust to fester. But as we assume the best in others, and move forward, trust becomes our greatest strength. I've been privileged to have a diverse learning and teaching experience here in PHM and work with all kinds of people throughout our district. I believe that when we commit to these ideas, we will all continue to thrive. Thank you so much.
Looks great, thanks.
Thanks for recognizing your wife, too. Why don't you stand up so we can all see it? Okay, now we also have a classified employee of the year. And I'm so proud to say that Julie Mead, a teacher's aide at Horizon Elementary School, is the classified employee of the year. She's always doing something to help others. And as you look up there, she's the one that would be in the picture on the left side and to the right of me, the stripes across. Julie Mead, the other person is the principal, Amy Fedorson, who is an outstanding leader. Now, Julie, of course, is traveling to Washington, D.C. as a chaperone for the eighth graders. So she'll be out there for a week and come back. But I'll give you a little bit of information about Julie so that you'll know the kinds of people that we have. We couldn't do all these great things without the support staff. And she came as a parent, and then she loved participating as a volunteer. All three of her children have attended PHM schools. She started working as a universal substitute at Horizon in 2019. A year later, she transitioned to a teacher's aide position, and she stayed at Horizon. This school year, she became an early learning academy teacher's aide. And she said she loves to be able to interact with the kids and the staff throughout the building. And you can see her around the building helping all the time. She loves it when she can and it brings her joy when she sees the little light bulbs go off above the students' heads. So she's appreciated not just for the assistance she provides in the classroom, but she does outside the classroom as well. Her list of school activities include leading staff in after-school workouts, helping coach Horizon's running as elementary teams, taking care of Horizon's environmental lab, serving as a school traffic guard, and organizing a school blood drive for staff in the community. Her colleague, Horizon teacher Jeffrey Hardman, nominated Julie, and he said this about her: Mrs. Mead's personality to help and lift up those around her is above and beyond what is needed in our workplace. She brings a cheery and secure personality to work each day. In absentia, congratulations, Julia.
Eric, Roby, and also to Julie, wherever she may be, and she's working with as she is prone to do right now. But thank you all. I believe we appreciate all of our teachers, and we're so grateful for the contributions the two of you guys have made, and these are well-deserved recognitions. So if please everybody just join me one more time in just thanking our teachers. Next up is our consent agenda. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 20 items appearing on consent agenda. Appearing on personnel report under classified staff are 4 retirements. Vicki Stickle, educational assistant at Moran, who retired on April 24th, 2023 after 23 years of service. Phyllis P.J. Powell, dispatcher, receptionist in the transportation department, who will retire on July 12th, 2023 after 21 years of service. Michael Powell, bus aide, who will retire on June 1st, 2023 after 2 years of service. And Darlene Stump, bus operator, who will retire on May 31st, 2023 after 1 year of service. On behalf of the board and administration, we wish these dedicated employees the very best in their upcoming retirements.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Board members, any questions for the administration?
Yes, I would move agenda item 6.20 off the consent agenda and have further discussion amongst the board immediately following the vote of the consent agenda. It's according to policy 166-1.
This is 6.02.
6.20.
Well, Mr. Chaffee, the opportunity to move to amend the agenda occurred earlier in our meeting and was occupied with the discussion about CRT. I don't know that this is a timely motion. Mr. Johnson?
Right on the policy.
Yeah.
A member of the board may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda and deferred for action or more discussion immediately following the consent agenda at the current meeting. A vote of the board is not required on removal from consent agenda unless the request is for the action or discussion to take place at a subsequent board meeting, in which case a majority of the vote of the board is required. I'm not asking for it to be at a meeting in the future. I'm asking for it to take place right after the vote of the 19 other items. So. that
Okay, and you want what pulled?
6.20. Thank you.
And that is the human resources report?
And it's the
Personnel report.
Yep.
Yes.
Approval of personnel report for administrative certified classified employees for May 2022 or May 22nd, 2023.
Okay, and we can do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then the consent agenda, board members that you'll be voting on consists of items 6.01 through 6.19. But before we take a vote, before have a member of our audience, consent agenda, item number 6.17. And so Christy Witt.
Hello, my name is Christy Witt. You have my address. I'd like to speak on 6.17. It's approval of a contract with Crisis Prevention Institute training. I think you've already approved it. You're just going through the motions right now. But this is specifically for nonviolent crisis intervention. When I looked at CPI training, it not only focuses on the mind, hearts, and behaviors, but how do adults handle this as well in the classroom? Most of them have is not being supported by administration when discipline comes into play. Distractions in the classroom could be about dress code or because of restorative approaches. How many times does a kid get sent out of the classroom for being disruptive and is back in a few minutes or by next class? If a child has drugs on them or comes to school intoxicated, has threatened to harm students or the teacher, why are they allowed to sit next to my child or anyone else's as long as they have a clear backpack? This training minimally costs $25,000. So you guys are approving at least $25,000 for this training. Judge Hurley spoke before you back in, I think, 2021 on how great restorative practices are. You are throwing money at this because restorative justice probably isn't working. Admit to the fact that the current behavior policies has led PHM down an abyss of unruliness that has caused both administrators, parents, and teachers to leave the district. Training won't fix that. Restorative justice has actually cost you money. Money we don't have because we're going to be $9 million in the hole when government funding is over. Teachers have been asking for no tolerance policies to curb behavior in their classrooms, and instead you give them yet another professional development training where they're supposed to be the ones de-escalating. Are they the ones that are supposed to be de-escalating behavior? Is that why you gave them a raise, because you're putting more on their plates? Is it PHM's position that teachers are responsible for classroom behavior rather than the policies this board creates? If so, are your teachers involved in the decision-making process of behavior expectations? Or are they simply told exactly what they should and shouldn't do without administration support? I look forward to your response. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Witt. Let's move on to taking a vote on 6.01 through 6.19. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. 6.1 to 6.19 are unanimously approved. That leads us to 6.20. Mr. Chaffee, what's your concern?
Yeah, my focus is just questions on employment of support staff. So policy 4120 states this of all support staff. So first question would be, what are those guidelines? Dr. Thacker?
We'll provide them to you. I don't have them with me.
Well, could you be able to elaborate off?
Absolutely. Well, when we're looking at hiring people, we want people who have good character, integrity, quality, good interpersonal skills, motivated, well-educated, caring about other individuals, proficient skills to do the job at an excellent level.
That pretty much it. Do we take into account seniority at all for our support staff? I'm just focused right now on our support staff through the district. Yes or no?
All of those things are factors. Seniority is a factor as well.
What about employees that have furthered their education in hopes of growth within the district? Is that, I know we talk about our administrators and we provide opportunities for them to get master's and doctorate degrees. What happens for our support staff when they choose to further their education in hopes of, furthering their careers as well too, because every person matters.
Yeah, exactly. When we think about people who are furthering their educations, when I started here we had one person in the ESC at a support level who had a college degree. We now have 10. So we have lots of people who are continuing to grow throughout their careers.
Well, yes, college degrees are great too, but that should only be one bucket. Of course, we encourage our students, not college isn't for everyone as well. You have different types of post-high school education for that. So I'm just pointing that out. So yeah, I would like to see those guidelines until I can have a further understanding of that. I don't feel comfortable casting a vote personally on this subject. I'm not going to vote no, because I know it incorporates other people. We have some coaches that are great opportunities, I think tremendously of them. But until I can truly understand what those true guidelines are, because my understanding is sometimes with our support staff, some positions are posted, some aren't. Different things take into account with different positions. So I would like to see if we could have a set guidelines for our support staff. I know we encourage our teachers to grow, we encourage our administrative staff to grow, but our support staff matters just as much as they do. They are a part of that triangle as well, and they make a difference too. So yeah, thank you.
Would you like to abstain?
Yes, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, I'll call for your abstention then.
Thank you.
Okay, then is there a motion to approve item 6.20, which is the personnel report?
I so move.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Abstentions?
Yes, me.
Okay, we'll show that it passes by a vote of 6-0 with one abstention. And I think before moving on to our next agenda item, Dr. Thacker has some additional items to share.
We are very excited.
I may have missed it, but did we vote on items 6.01 through 6.19?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We want to make sure that our minute taker, you've got that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Thacker.
Okay, this a lot of fun things happening. Here it is, the end of the school year, and we've had so many great things happening, and we're about to make a couple more really fabulous things occur tonight. Okay, appearing on the personnel report, we do have a couple of changes in coaching. We have in administration. I'm going to start with administration, and then that would be Mr. Brandon Tugman. He's been named our new Director of Transportation. He's been the assistant since 2019. He's also been a teacher, a dean, and a coach at Penn High School. He earned his undergraduate degree at Manchester and his graduate degree from Ball State. Okay, and which would be appropriate here is the assistant. He's going to be he is the Director of Transportation effective June 5th. He's a licensed school administrator and he holds a CDL to operate a school bus. In addition to that, he continues his education on driving buses. Later this month, he'll complete his National Association of Pupil Transportation Supervisors certification. So he's an excellent leader for our transportation. Welcome.
Thanks, Dr. Thacker. I appreciate that. Mr. Riley, the rest of the board members, I really appreciate this opportunity. Dr. Linsky giving me this opportunity. I'm really excited. I'm actually excited to be here with the coaches. I was lucky enough to coach football with Corey Yeoman for over a decade here, and then got into school administration. Actually taught a year with Eric Bowers. It's probably the real reason I'm up here right now. So Eric and I taught together for 1 year, and then I was awarded the opportunity to be Dean of Students at Penn, and did that for 5.5, and then served as Assistant Director of Transportation for the last about 4.5 years now. Excited about this. I'm excited to help with extracurriculars with the schools, and really excited to just continue to serve this community. My wife is an educator as well here. My daughter Avery is a first grader at Horizon, and my son Caleb is a sixth grader at Discovery. I got him to come here, told him this would only be about half an hour. Didn't work out, so that didn't work out the way we planned, but he's doing great. So really grateful and thankful for it. We're gonna do great things and work with all the schools and all the administration. There's gonna be a lot of growth out there, so we're excited to do it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brandon.
Caleb, stick around for a little while longer. Okay, now please join me in welcoming Mrs. Sarah Smith, who's been named our new principal at Schmucker Middle School. Mrs. Smith I'm going to say a couple of words about you. Actually, last year when we were looking at assistant principals and even principals, we hired Mrs. Smith as an assistant, and we said that she's going to be one of our principals. We're absolutely thrilled with the skill level that she has, with her personality, with her the background, and she brings in this ability to create a positive culture among the faculty and staff. She has lots and lots of experience in implementing high quality instruction. She's great at coaching teachers and proven instructional methodology. And prior to coming to PHM, she worked as a school administrator at Elkhart for 6 years. She'll begin her new role on July 1st, and she will do a great job. Welcome, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thacker and President Riley and the members of the PHM School Board. I'm going to go off script already because I just love coming here and hearing all these wonderful things about me. It's so nice to have that. And I also want to say my family's in Michigan and they're watching and they're texting me saying all you can do is hear me laugh and what have you. And so hi to everybody at home. Thank you for the tremendous honor and opportunity to become a leader at Schmucker Middle School. Since arriving at PHM last July, I've been able to work with the most amazing educators, students, families, and I'm excited to continue in this new role. I have to plug Grissom a little bit. This year at Grissom has been outstanding. I cannot put into words how amazing Mrs. Sinclair is and the entire Grissom staff have been. As a team, we've stayed true to our one-word theme for the year of build, and we've built an amazing school culture and community of staff and students who are dedicated to growing as scholars and as people. It's been really a great and outstanding year. So tonight is a little bit bittersweet. I'm sad to leave my amazing Grissom family who have been so understanding and supportive of this transition, though a little rowdy at times. But I'm also ready to start this new adventure, and I'm so thankful for all the well wishes and support I've received from the members of the Schmucker staff, people I haven't met yet, people I haven't put names to faces yet. So that's meant a ton that they've reached out and welcomed me. I can't wait to get started and to plan for the 23-24 school year. I'm supposed to be ready for a well-needed break, but I'm pumped up and ready to go. It will be a pleasure to get to know more of the staff and students. I'm excited to work with the staff, the Schmucker staff, the parents, the students, and see what we can accomplish together. So thank you for this opportunity once again, and I am thrilled to be a Schmucker Spartan.
Already?
No, I am not that far. I can't get, I still have to take care of Grissom for a couple of more weeks. Thanks. Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's great. Good. Thanks.
Hey, Brandon.
Appreciate it.
I did bring the thank you work. I'm sorry. Congratulations.
Mrs. Smith, I am a proud Schmucker mom that's taken the year off for the first time in 8 years of being a Spartan mom. I'm so glad you're at the helm. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I do want to just take a note to thank Mrs. Kristen Martin, who is a phenomenal educator and has done extraordinary service on behalf of our kids. And we wish her very well. I believe she might be going back to her alma mater. Is that right? Maybe, maybe not. A little closer to home. Anyway, I just wanted to thank Mrs. Martin for all that she's done.
Indeed, we think Mrs. Martin, she's an excellent principal, excellent educator, and we found out an excellent basketball player, which is a nice segue, I think, to our next topic.
We're gonna get to these outstanding coaches that we hired. Okay, we're going to begin, ladies first. So please join me in welcoming Miss Caitlin Hickey, who's been named Penn's new head basketball. She might be a basketball coach. She had a red ring from a basketball championship. I always think about it. If she'd come back, we probably would have gotten the blue. So the new head volleyball coach one of the most exciting hires we have. Caitlin, why don't you step up and I'll say some things about you. And then I'm going to introduce Jeff Hartzler. Caitlin has an unbelievable family, and she's just a great family. And she builds that sense of family when she is with people. And I've watched her play, I'm sure, 100 times. And she has been phenomenal in every single game. She was a 2-time state champion on 2 state championships. So she has 2 blue rings and a red ring from basketball. But mental attitude, and we're so delighted to have you here. We couldn't be happier. I want to turn this over to Jeff Hart, athletic director.
Well, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the school board of trustees, I usually when I stand up here, it's right after some valedictorians, and then tonight I thought I was going to be speaking right after our teachers of the year, so I appreciate you letting me speak after Brandon. But
Wow.
sorry, Todd. I think my buses are gonna be late for soccer. But seriously, my 4 children, along with 8 nieces and nephews, were blessed to grow up in the PHM community. They were blessed with teachers that pushed them and helped foster their interest in lifelong learning. And they certainly were blessed with the opportunity, with maybe the exception of the girls soccer coach, of playing for and being mentored by dedicated, positive, high character coaches that taught them invaluable life lessons. Some of these things you've heard tonight, but lessons that all 12 of them are taking advantage of today as they make their way in the world. And I bring that up because that was the mission that my outstanding assistant ADs, Marie Doan and Bridget Williams, and I had when we began the official process of replacing 2 Hall of Fame coaches in volleyball and boys basketball. Find head coaches that are positive leaders of your young people, competitive coaches that will push our student athletes to be the best version of themselves, coaches that will certainly win with humility and lose with grace, and coaches that will do all they can to provide a positive experience for the kids they lead. I'm confident that we found 2 head coaches that fit that profile, and I'm confident that they will both be head coaches of significance at Penn High School. So Coach Caitlin Hickey, I'll say a few things. Dr. Thacker, you stole a little bit of my thunder. But as we stated in our release, she's a Penn High School star coming home, is how we said it. 3-sport athlete, 2-time state champion volleyball, member of our 2011 state runner-up girls basketball team, member of IUPUI's Hall of Fame on Saturday, 2 days ago, put in the Hall of Fame there. And one of only 26 Penn Kingsmen in the last 40 years to be named an IHSAA Mental Attitude Award winner, and certainly the only one to become a head coach here. She's coached at IUP. She's officiated youth volleyball. She's been a club head coach and a recruiting coordinator for that club. But most importantly, she comes from a volleyball family, and that family, many of them are here tonight to support her, helped give Caitlin a foundation of love, quiet self-confidence that you know if you get to know her, and a positive passion to grow the sport that she loves. So our young female student athletes truly are going to love playing for her, and I think you guys are going to love her as well. So Coach Caitlin.
Well, I just wanted to thank each one of you for your support and giving me this opportunity. And I'm really eager to start open gyms with the girls and to be working with this athletic department. Nice and simple.
Okay, and of course, Coach Hart said it well when he said replacing 2 Hall of Famers, and we have 2 Hall of Famers coming up, 2 of the greatest that will be in Penn's history. I am so proud to say that Barrett Kuhlman is going to be our new head boys basketball coach. He's been a marvelous coach. He's had, when we talk about references and check on people, he's always ranked at the top with everybody we talk to, the Hall of Fame coaches, which would be Mike Lightfoot, Pete Smith, and of course the legendary Al Rhodes. So we couldn't be more comfortable. He also has a fabulous family, and he's going to bring some of the same attributes that I mentioned with Caitlin, building that sense of family, having that great chemistry, inspiring the players to play hard every single day and get better and better and win championships. And I think Coach Bowers threw down the gauntlet with the 16 in a row. So we're delighted to have you. Welcome, Coach.
All right, so Coach Barrett Coleman, I started this job as athletic director a little over 5 years ago. And one of the first things I started to do is I'm a coach watcher. That's what I do. And I watch coaches from other teams. I certainly obviously watch our coaches and communicate with them, but I like to see how people react to people around them. And so from day one, he's been on our radar certainly, and I'm thrilled to introduce him and his family. Certainly both kids are student athletes, which is always a nice bonus for us. But Coach Coleman's success in 15 years as an Indiana high school head coach speaks for itself. 253 wins, 6 sectional titles. Some would say basketball is a little bit tougher than tennis. And now I wouldn't be one of those people. But so
I just want to say, you know, you're lucky we have armed security.
Nobody on the board wants to object to that?
Yeah. I apologize. That was not very nice. He is in a big regional match tomorrow. So, but Coach Coleman's teams, they all have the same characteristics. They play hard. They play with grit and intelligence. They play a sense of respect for their opponent in the sport of basketball, which I've always appreciated. And they win a lot. And so that's what we call positive leadership. His sense of purpose and mentoring young people to become responsible leaders as they enter life beyond our school is exactly what we should all be coaching high school sports for. And it's certainly something that he's done at this point. And I'm so excited for him to be with us at Penn. Coach Coleman.
Art. Well, first of all, board members and Dr. Thacker, thank you so much for believing and giving me the opportunity. It's extremely humbling. Okay, and thank you also to the search committee that recommended me and that experience and just the whole process along the way. My experience has been just, over and over outstanding with the Penn already. Each time I get off the phone with someone that works in this corporation, I get more and more impressed. And so it gets the excitement and makes me more and more excited about the opportunity. As far as the sectional titles, I was once told and once read that comparison is the theft of all joy. So we're not going to compare. We're going to cheer for each other. We're going to support. 16 sectionals would be an awesome accomplishment. But for me, win or losses take care of themselves. Okay, we won't truly know if I've been successful each season until 5 to 10 years down the road, where we can see the young men that we've developed into being great community husbands, great fathers, and just great employees. And so that'll be my measure of success. We'll pursue excellence, and we always do. Okay, but bottom line is I need to really thank some real people that took a belief in someone long time ago, before I'd ever achieved any, I guess, worldly success on the basketball court as a coach. The first one, I would not be here and not be the teacher, not be the man I am without my wife, Valerie. So again, thank you, sweetheart, for believing me and letting me be to Fort Wayne from Bethel, or from Fort Wayne to Valpo, and now Valpo to Penn. And without her support in the 23 years helping coach the team in her ways. She's the head coach and I'm the assistant when it comes to many things, and I couldn't be where I am without you. Coach Life, it was already mentioned, and he has made a great impact in my life. And then the last person I really need to thank is Coach Rhodes, who obviously is not here and not often. He's a great teacher, an amazing teacher. And he always says, and maybe you've heard it before, you're always in a job interview. Okay. And he tells it because we are always in a job interview. And I actually interviewed for this job in 2002 and I didn't know it. Okay. When I walked into a gym to work a basketball camp for Coach Rhodes, and he believed in me enough before I'd achieved any success as a coach to see that I could maybe do it. And has paved the way in many different ways for me, but most importantly, just as a mentor and a close friend. And so to have the humbling honor to replace him
is daunting in a way, but also very exciting to me, because I know if he believes I can do it, then I can do it. And if my wife believes I can do it, then I can do it. And obviously you guys believe because you give me the opportunity. So thank you so much. I look forward to leading the Penn Viking, or excuse me, again, the Penn Kingsmen. Yeah. And I often tell my guys I'm far from perfect, and just ask anyone. And to success on and off the court in many different ways for many years, and look forward to raising and continuing my kids' education here. Thank you. Oh, and one other thing, this board meeting has done something I have not been able to do. My kids have sat quietly for over an hour without me.
Who's your first? You know, when we talk about that triangle, obviously students, teachers, and parents, when we look at these families, clearly we see that's in place, and that's how we achieve excellence. When I think of Caitlin Hickey, now see, I've been here 17 years, so I've watched her play lots and lots of games. And I watch these parents, such great parents. Why don't we have you guys stand up, family, the Hickey family. I'd also like to have this brand new family. Welcome to Penn Kingsman.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
What are the kids for? Joe. Thank you.
My first step, I will make one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was fun. Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, as we finish that one, then we're about to move to the next agenda item. I would like to say a big welcome, congratulations to Lisa Feltz, who couldn't be here tonight, but she's the new assistant to the assistant superintendent, Dr. Heather Short. So Lisa's been working in the learning division in a support role for a year. She's responsible for maintaining the district's enrollment database, has been assisting Carolyn Polonis, who was the administrative assistant with the test score database, and she is great at all of these things. Because she already works in the learning division, it's going to be a very smooth transition. She is just a phenomenal person, great attitude, hard worker, willing to go above and beyond, and just incredibly talented. She's also had 9 years of service in the roles of student services secretary and teacher's aide. She's an IU grad with a bachelor's degree in business administration, double majoring in marketing and advertising. She's the mother of 2 daughters. One's a Penn graduate and one is a freshman. And the Penn graduate happens to be one of our new teachers. So we're certainly proud of her. So congratulations to our great coaches and to all of our new administrators. Welcome to those new roles.
Well, we certainly look forward to meeting you, Lisa, wherever you may be right now. We look forward to meeting you soon. And so, Brandon, congratulations. And Sarah, to Caitlin, to Barrick, and to Lisa, congratulations again for your new roles. Mr. Hart, congratulations on making it out of this board meeting unharmed.
Not out yet.
We appreciate you all. We'll see you soon, I hope. And we're going to move on to discussion item number 8, which is a draft reading of revisions to the parent-student handbook.
What's that?
Okay, Dr. Thacker. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is, this is the first draft reading of revisions to the parent-student handbooks for the 2023-2024 school year. Dr. Heather Short, Dr. Levon Dino will lead the discussion for us this evening related to the handbook revisions that are under review. Dr. Short.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. Happy to be here this evening, and I will be turning it over to Dr. Levon Dino. One statement that we did want to make is, as we know, the state has enacted legislation to eliminate the textbook and curriculum fees for required courses and content, and we have received some preliminary guidance from the Indiana Department of Education. So we know we will not be charging for textbooks, software, or digital content for those courses, and we anticipate further information as we move forward, but we know that that will be a great benefit to our families, so we're excited about that. Dr. Levon Dino is here to walk through some of the handbook changes. So
thank you so much, Dr. Short. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board, and Dr. Thacker. You have in front of you the updated handbooks for the 2023-2024 school year. We have committees that collaborate to update these handbooks each year. So for example, for the elementary, middle school, and high school handbooks, we have one committee with representatives from each level that then contribute to that conversation. After the committee makes changes and adjustments, their recommendations are then reviewed by legal counsel. As Dr. Short explained, the most considerable changes in these handbooks are the exciting news about school fees, which I'm sure all of our families will welcome that greatly. And these changes are detailed in the elementary, middle school, and high school handbooks. Additionally, there were some other minor edits made to reflect changes in legislation, so to be consistent with the law, and then also to create some closer alignments between the elementary, middle school, and handbooks. So I'll give you a couple examples of those. Would include there's updated language under the child custody section, and that was per the advice of legal counsel. Then also, for example, like portions of the student code of conduct section were adjusted to create similar language with all 3 handbooks. So for example, the language in academic honesty sections for the middle school and the high school are more parallel to bring those together. So at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the handbooks for the 2023-2024 school year.
Board members, any questions or comments? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to academic dishonesty, it states, I think board member McCullough emailed earlier today amongst us about that second and third penalty pretty much was similar. So it states failing grade. What is a failing grade? Is that a 0 or is that a 50% or 50? My question is, when we have definition on what failing grade means? Because in my opinion, that should be a 0. If you try and cheat on something and you get caught, you should not be awarded any type of percentage points for that. So when I'm reading through this, I would like to have some understanding on what failing grade means.
Sure, I'd be glad to field that for you if you'd like. So the new language for that, the difference between the second offense and the third offense is the second offense, there is recommendation of a parent meeting. For the third offense, there is a parent meeting. And then within that setting, that's where administrators and teachers would then move. Sorry.
Failing grade. What is failing grade? Is that 50%? Because technically a 50% is an F. Or is that a 0%? What are we doing? This is my question to our top level administration. What's being communicated down to our school principals on?
I'd be glad to answer that.
Yes.
Anything that would be below, that would hit into the F is failing. Okay, so any score that is in that F range is failing. What we typically want to do is intervene so that we don't have high failure rates. So we don't have a lot of failure. And we've had great cooperation working with the parents, but we do not, anything that would be failing would be anything that's assigned an F.
I think you're asking what's the
penalty? So like if
it is a 4.0 is an F 0.0.
Yeah, and like if it's a test, a 100-point test, what is the amount of points that student gets on that 100-point test? In my opinion, it should be 0. If they cheat,
And in last year's, to your point, last year's handbook, it said would receive a 0. And this year it's saying failing.
Yeah, so.
So as weighted scores come into effect, if it's a 100-point test and there's only 200 points all semester, he gets 50 for cheating. It's not, I don't know if that's strict.
So can I ask a question about who's on these committees? Because I think this probably speaks to Mr. Chaffee's question. It's a good question. I think the teachers who are to the effective consequences are justifiable consequences, et cetera. So this leads me to ask the committees that you mentioned, you don't have to tell me names, but what types of people sit on these committees? Because there was a comment earlier today about discipline. Do teachers have the opportunity to weigh in on disciplinary consequences? And so much is changing so quickly. I think of cheating and like ChatGPT and whether students fully understand if it's cheating or not. I mean, I was joking that, we in education kind of were aghast when spell checks came out. We were worried that kids weren't ever going to learn how to spell anymore. And now it's like you take for granted that kids use the spell check on their essay. So it leads me to wonder, are we giving the I'll just be quiet. What types of people sit on this committee?
Yeah, sure. So I would say there's kind of multiple levels that come into that. The people that are on the committee are often administrators from separate buildings, and they bring in experiences from like their RTI teams or their behavior teams, their TILT groups, their teacher leadership groups, their PLCs, their instructional leaders. So the admin will sit in those conversations, but we send out all the handbooks ahead of time, say give feedback, what are areas. So they talk with their teacher leaders in their buildings and then bring that together to come up with some of those conversations. So that's the nice part about the committees. Like I mentioned tonight, some of the items that we're aligning, that's the same piece. We have elementary, middle school, high school people all at the same table to say, okay, how can we make these align? How is it maybe different between each one? But they bring those experiences. So to speak to what you're saying with behavior and those pieces, those perspectives of teachers are represented in the group.
So you're confident that the teachers' perspectives are making it up?
Teachers well, right? The administrators are involved with all of those circumstances, whether it's academics, whether it's behavior, and then they bring those to the table. And then as another layer too, once the committee kind of meets and make recommendations, we share those with building leaders again. So they would have another opportunity to ask questions or to further ask or offer contributions if they would like.
Do we ever drive specific questions like, considering there's so much change in academic honesty right now, can you make sure you really address this? Or do we really throw attention on certain issues?
Sure. Yeah. Or there's different things that come up, or like that was one of the reasons, Mr. Chaffee, where you mentioned, and Mr. McCullough, about the consequences for academic dishonesty. That's one reason why purposely that third step is to include administrators, teachers, and parents, right? Because there are different situations, right? AP classes might have some different qualifications, right? When it comes to academic dishonesty compared to maybe a 6th grade student who is learning about plagiarism and ChatGPT, right? So that's why that is intentionally in there, to know that's how we can navigate those situations. So.
I have a question on grading. There's a difference between point systems and ABCDF. For example, if a student doesn't turn in an assignment, does he get 0 if you're on a point system, or does he get 50% or what? Because if you take that grade you get from your point system and then transfer it over to ABCDF, you get a 0, which is an F, so it's just an F, and then you get an A and an F is a C, but 100% and a 0 is still F, which is a 50, which is still an F. So melding those two systems together, I remember that there are a lot of questions about that when I was teaching. So has there been any guidance on how you can do point systems? I mean, if a student doesn't turn in the assignment, are the teachers allowed to give them 0s, or do they have to give them 50%?
Yeah, so I think that's a good topic that's brought up in a lot of PLCs. It's very different each level, right? Elementary is standards based, so like that isn't even relevant because we don't do points in elementary. Yeah, so in secondary, I think those are conversations that they have in PLC groups. I think there are some some content areas where they do standard based even in the secondary level. And then some of them work on a point system. Some of them work on different types of rubrics.
So there's no standard definition of how that works.
Yeah, I think that's different depending on the content area and the teacher. And those are given some autonomy in that.
So I hate to go back to this. I just want I would like some clarification on failing grades. So like high school, middle school, whether it's academic dishonesty or even attendance. Say a kid doesn't participate in gym class. What is he going to get for that day? Is he going to get a 0 or is he going to get a failing grade? If there's 10 points of participation for that day, for example, and it's going to help his final grade more so than a 0 out of 10. I think we are doing a disservice to our students in their long-term growth if we are not holding them accountable. So I just want to understand as a board member what we mean as a failing grade, because I mean, our mission and our governance compact is to provide an educational environment for students to reach their highest academic achievement. We will prepare them to be responsible, healthy, contributing citizens who have acquired the skills to be lifelong learners, ready to adapt to a changing world. Now, all of us in here, there might be some students still in here, we're all in the real world. We can't, give it a 50% on the job, or we're going to be held accountable in the long term in our jobs, wherever they may be. So I think we're doing a disservice to our students if we are not, that failing grade is not a 0 out of 10 in some of these situations. So I just would like to understand, and I think our public needs that answered as well, as what do we mean by failing grade? Because that is a wide spectrum, especially when you get down to the final grade at the end of the semester, at the end of the school year, and that can affect your GPA, etc.
This item's on the agenda tonight for discussion, so not for a vote. Before the item comes back up to the board for a vote, can you give us a clear answer on the question that's been raised as to what constitutes a failing grade? Is it 50% or 0?
Sure, I'd be glad to share some details on that.
Okay, any other comments? Before we close this topic, we do have a member of the public who has asked to speak on it. So, Mr. Penn-Dallas, I'll call on you, 3 minutes, and Mr. Johnson will keep time, let you know as your time is expiring.
Actually, I have a question for you real quick.
If you ask that question, she answers, it will be counted towards your 3 minutes.
That's okay. It's not going to be a long speech, sir. Okay, so is this the same handbook policy that has to do with the pronoun changes? Because when I read online, I thought you took a lot of that out of this draft. Is that correct?
May I speak to that?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so any of the pronoun changes, since there's new legislation, we just follow the state legislation. So whatever the state says, which I can give you the House Bill number for that if you want, which is House Bill 1608, we just follow the state
So it
legislation.
means parents initiate the changes of gender names.
Yes. Would you like me to read it for you?
I'm good. I just wanted to confirm that this is the same thing.
Yeah, we're just following the state.
Awesome. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so she confirmed. So let me read the following statement to the current handbook. The current policy, before it changes, the statement says gender pronouns / name changes / requests should be directed to the school's administration or counseling center. Such inquiries can be initiated by the student and / or family. Student and / or family. Now, since the law changed, now this changed. So they took that out. But the issue I have is the masterclass in gaslighting. So I've heard from several board members that statement that I just read, what that means is parents initiate the changes. Two things can't be true at once, right? So we changed the policy for a reason. We changed the policy because students shouldn't be changing their pronouns or names or genders on their own without the parents being involved. Okay, it was that statement that I read, student and or family. That was talk back. You guys told us, I think Mr. Riley several times told us that he interpreted that as the family making those changes. That's not true. Obviously, it's not true because you changed the policy, right? So that's what I wanted to get at. Why are we saying down is up and up is down? And thanks for the time reminder. But why are we changing it then? If it was already perfect before, the parents were already initiating it, why are we changing it? We said one thing, we're doing another. And that's all I really got to say. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to our next topic on the agenda, which is item number 9, which is focus on Penn High School Academies. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Tonight, we're going to hear a focus on Freshman Academy and Exceptional Education Academy, and Dr. Short's going to introduce this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. Yes, we are excited for the report this evening, and we are welcoming our ex-ed academy leader, Mrs. Jenny Schaefer. I think did she get back in the room?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Hello, hello. And also freshman academy leader, Mr. Ben Case, who I think I saw come in as well. So we are happy to have them, and they're going to share with us some great highlights from both of those academies this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. I'm happy to present you information on the Exceptional Education Academy. I think, maybe. Helps. Turn it on. Okay. I'm going to present how our Exceptional Education Academy provides special education services to students with IEPs while promoting inclusion in our Penn community. We help students meet their goals and provide services so that they can transition into post-secondary lives with as much independence as possible. I will highlight 4 areas this evening on how we do this. We will review the alternate diploma, our co-teaching efforts, learning strategies, and the amazing things that unified track and field brings to our students. So the state sent out a memo introducing an alternate diploma in February. It highlighted requirements for students to be eligible for earning this type of diploma. In looking at these requirements, we found that through our hard work in the past 6 years, we're already well prepared for our students to earn this diploma. In that time, we worked on developing curriculum maps that align to the content connectors. We continue to provide career experience for students through our work experience program. The new piece that was required was an easy addition. The portfolio piece brings all the students' information together. This additional diploma was able to increase our Penn High School graduation rate from 97% to 98%, as Dr. Gallagher had shared at the board meeting at Penn. Some of the hard work that we're doing to support these students on the alternate diploma track is our co-teaching efforts. We continue to make with our partnerships in the Freshman Academy, and we've increased our efforts in some new classes this year. We expanded to English 10, government, personal finance, and the environmental science classes. Each year, as we discuss how we can increase the co-teaching plan, that we provide services for students in the least restrictive environment. Another requirement for the alternate diploma is for students to participate in career experiences. We have a wonderful work experience program led by Crystal Wheeler and Emma Bright that has students working in a variety of settings in campus and off campus to gain health or employment skills. Now I'm going to pivot to students who have special education services who are earning a Core 40 diploma or higher. We have a wonderful team of resource teachers who work in a PLC in the learning strategies classes. Students in these classes receive some direct instruction on executive functioning skills, but then they spend the majority of their class making sure they're keeping up with their other coursework. For most of these students, school is really hard. So we're proud to say that out of 143 students, 90% of them are passing all of their classes because of their hard work, their teacher supports, and this class. And finally, I wanted to share a video presentation about something dear to our students and our staff. This piece shows us the impact that unified track and field has on promoting inclusion in our school. This piece was edited by Emerald Andrews, reported on by Landon Bennett, and contributed to by Harley Kent, Nevaeh Durkis, Marie Roach, and CJ Van Tyne. Another unified effort. We wanted to highlight something that's been so wonderful to including all students to be on the same team competing together. This is an opportunity that many of our students would not have if it wasn't for the unique, strategic, and purposeful method this sport provides.
My name is Landon Bennett. Penn freshman, a member of the Unified Track team, and a PNN reporter. I am here at Penn's Freed Field reporting on the Unified Track team. The Unified Track is a program where students who might not ordinarily go out for track participate in events with competitors from other schools. Led by Penn teacher Mr. Bennett Blazo, the Penn Unified Track team is in its 4th season. The team has experienced success at regional competitions and has traveled to state. In their first trip to state, they finished in 5th place. Though the Unified Track team has only been around for a short time, they are making great strides. For PNN, I'm Landon Bennett.
Should I just say Landon? Landon's been pretty awesome at the long jump. When he jumps, he's jumping with some confidence there. But if I had to put some shine on some other kids, I would say Mike and Genzik, he was pretty good the last couple meets and at practices. He's turning into a great leader. And we got Owen Nowak. He is a guy that really looks out for everybody on the team and cares for everyone on any kind of aspect. So those are two members that really have been sticking out lately for me. Well, the team's doing pretty well. I mean, we've had 4 track meets so far, and each one, people have been showing personal records every single time. We've been hitting around 70% of the team every track meet, improving, and I'm pretty proud to see that.
What makes Unified Track such a good program?
It's just all inclusive. It gives students who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to be in a sport to have a sport that really is all about them to showcase their talents.
What makes Unified Track such a good program?
I think it's just the camaraderie that we all have. Everyone's friends. We all just like come together to enjoy this, and it's not very competitive, but we all just love it, and we get to share it as a team. I think that's what's so great about it.
Best part of season.
The best part of the season are definitely the meets. Lots of fun. Very enjoyable time.
Explain how Unified Track is good for you.
Unified Track is good for me because I like the sport and I like the community.
And what do you enjoy about being part of Unified?
I think, again, it's just the camaraderie. Everyone loves each other. It's just so much fun.
What do you enjoy about being part of Unified Track?
The family, everybody's always cheering. It doesn't matter which team. Like, we cheer for everyone because that's just the sport that we are. Come support Unified Track and join. We need everybody.
It's really just a family, all in all. That's pretty much it.
You know, just getting to state is a goal. We have sectionals here in May, and I just hope that we can get past there and move to regionals and get to state. And, you know, if we go to state this year, I hope we win it all.
The Unified Track team has had a very successful season. They dominated even when scores were not recorded. This season has shown the strengths in each teammate. And watch the pen for Landon Bennett signing off. Now back to the desk.
I think Landon and the others.
My name is Landon Bennett.
That.
He's not finished.
If you knew him, you know that was true. How do I get this? Nope. I am now going to turn it over to the Freshman Academy leader, Ben Case, who's going to highlight the wonderful things going on with the Freshman Academy.
My name is Liam.
It's really not done.
He talks better than I do, so he can keep going. Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board, trustees. My name is Ben Case. I'm the leader of the Freshman Academy at Penn High School. I actually use ChatGPT to do most of this, so I'm going to hope that it lives up to the hype that XED put together. As most of you know, the Freshman Academy is designed to create smaller learning communities, or what we call SLCs, or houses, in a largely populated school. We split our 734 Freshman Academy students into about 4.5 houses, puts about 160 students in each house. And in each house, they share the same 4 teachers in their core subjects: math, English, geography, and biology. Research has shown how important freshman year is in predicting the students' chance to graduate. And as students transition to high school from different schools in our community, they're making decisions about whether they feel like they belong at Penn. Our Freshman Academy teachers strive to make everyone feel like they belong through our SLCs. We collaborate weekly to meet each student's individual learning needs. On top of SLC meetings, our teachers also meet with their PLCs weekly to identify essential curriculum paths and to evaluate how students are performing. Throughout the year, students are exposed to engaging classroom and social experiences and are supported with positive relationships with other adults. The hope is that this sets them up for greater success to not only graduate, but hopefully contribute to our community locally and globally. And it all starts with the mouse working. There it goes. With that strong sense of community. So coming back from COVID, we put a big emphasis on building that community this year. Without establishing that positive, welcoming culture, all other efforts would fall to the wayside. Before classes begin, our counselors, Marnie Kronk, Nancy Block, and Deanna Ward, and freshman mentors give tours at the Penn walk around. Those mentors continue working with 9th graders in their PLC classes and all throughout the first semester to help them acclimate and talk about their experiences. Our houses continue to collaborate and support students, as well as identifying students who excelled in the transition to high school this year. Students were celebrated in some of their classrooms and given the exclusive House Rockers t-shirt, thanks to our PTO, and free pizza and pop coupons from Mimo's Pizza. New this year, we also were able to celebrate one staff member each month as voted on by students. During homecoming weekend, students and staff put a strong effort into building a float for the homecoming parade. In typical freshman fashion, it was one of the sadder floats, but spirits were still high. To highlight the tree in our new logo, students handed out tree seedlings to kids in the crowd. After the football game, thanks again to our PTO, we were able to bring back our Freshman Frenzy event to encourage kids to hang out with friends and to meet new ones. More social activities the Freshman Academy organized throughout the year include a basketball tailgate, field trips to Indiana Dunes, Cobus Creek, and later this week, a South Bend Cubs game and a field day. And hopefully once all that done, I can finally get some sleep. Academic experiences were also important to ensure that all students are feeling a sense of belonging. We continued our collaboration with XED to schedule 7 co-taught classes in biology, English, and geography. Biology classes took walking field trips to the St. Joe River. English 9 classes saw West Side Story at the Morris Performing Arts Center, and math students welcomed Dr. Scott Nestler from the University of Notre Dame to talk about data analytics related to men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments known as March Madness. Students then took the newly gained knowledge to pick brackets to compete in our March Mathness competition for a grand prize package of South Bend Cubs tickets and some Penn gear. Math teachers hosted and are hosting this week classrooms full of students after school the week prior to final exams. And a few weeks ago, former Notre Dame and NFL wide receiver Amir Carlisle spoke to some freshmen earlier this month to help motivate them to finish the school year strong and continue that motivation going forward. Of course, not all students make that smooth transition to Penn. Most of our day-to-day work is devoted to pushing students to do their best and provide supports for those that need more. Our interventionist, Mrs. Rochelle Mamileni and Kaylee Van Golder, work their magic providing tier 2 interventions in math and English in PCC. Our intensified Algebra 1 teacher, Stephanie Don Silvic, also provides everyday math support for a small group of students that need it most. Our deans, Daisha Bonner, Vince D'Addario, Derek Fairboth, and led by our assistant principal, Sarah Hendricks, are key players in keeping students in the classroom. SLC teachers meet with individual students to get them back on track, and all of this is overseen by our fearless leader, Mrs. Jeannie Mitchell. We are a team doing more than what is expected of most to do so that we can ensure all students succeed at Penn High School. Give a couple of pictures of, well, too fast. Go back. A couple of things that have happened this year, of course, lots being left off, but it's been a fun group. To kind of merge XED with our Freshman Academy, I want to take, as we look forward to next year, I'm excited to take this opportunity to introduce our new Freshman Academy leader for next year. This is Crystal Wheeler. Crystal has been an XED teacher for 16 years, Learning Strategies PLC leader for 3 years. and current work experience coordinator, of course, at Penn High School. She gets the challenge of not only taking on what sounds to be the biggest tuba section that has ever entered Penn High School, but also we're moving to 4 full houses and an increased population for our freshmen. But with her experience advocating for students and organizing positive school experiences, I know she's the right person for the job. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Terrific report. Board members, any questions or comments?
I have a question. Since we've been so successful with the Unified Track program, have you found any interest in maybe expanding maybe into other sports, maybe soccer or something like that?
That would be a question for the athletic directors, I believe.
Which we're working on.
Yeah, I thought that, that's a probably
Yeah,
a
we're looking to
similar
expand that.
lot of running. Good.
Or the opportunity at middle school, maybe?
I don't know that we've talked about that yet, but we're open to any and all possibilities.
I love your openness.
Yeah.
I will be there on Saturday cheering on our unified team.
Yes.
That was the one correction I would have made to Owen, who was incredibly well spoken. He said it's not as competitive, and I beg to differ. We're pretty competitive on the parent sideline. It's just differently competitive, right? Very competitive, but just
That word, different.
we want to win it. We're ready to win it.
I absolutely love this presentation, and there's so much recognition to go around for all those who participated in it. First of all, Mrs. Hendricks, thank you for everything that you're doing. I think I see Mrs. Mitchell back there. Thank you for all you're doing. Mrs. Schaefer, appreciate your presentation so much. It was wonderful, as was yours, Mr. Case. Mrs. Wheeler, welcome. Welcome aboard. We know you'll do great things. Obviously, exceptional education means an awful lot to our school corporation and to the school board. And because of that, I also want to say a hearty thank you to you, Jenna Todd, for everything that you're doing with exceptional education. I love that video. There were a number of participants, Christy, Lynn, Owen, Nick, and Cher, who deserve our thanks, but Landon kind of took the cake. He was awesome. So when you go back, will you tell Landon that we said hi and give him our best, give him our thanks, and also to Coach Blazo, give him everything you're doing. We'll move on to the next item, which is an action business operational services item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Aaron Linsky, will share our first business action item this evening with a request for approval to award bids for some capital improvement projects. Dr. Linsky.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. There are 7 items before you this evening. I tried to provide a lot of information in your board packet. Certainly happy to answer any questions you may have. Wrestling mats at Penn High School, that's for the wrestling room. It's in need of repair and replacement, so that's got to be done. Horizon and North Point, we're planning to replace those chillers next summer, and those that equipment's at least 12 months out. So we need to get those ordered. Door access controls, that's the third item I'm bringing forward for approval for safety and security. All of our door access, all of our badge controls, that current software and hardware is timing out. So that's a major project, and it's a year-long project, and we hope to have everything up and running for next school year. Mary Frank and Meadows Edge, we're replacing cameras there, and that's we have Safe School money left over in that grant, so we're going to utilize that to upgrade those cameras in those buildings. Walt Disney Storage Building, this is actually the first storage building we plan to bring forward. Eventually, we plan to have additional storage buildings at all of our elementary schools. The elementary schools, when they were designed in the 70s, 80s, some of them in the 90s, didn't have adequate storage. And there are different rules now regarding the fire marshal and what we can have in the building and what we should have outside the building. This helps alleviate any of those concerns. An energy savings project at Penn High School, and you'll see the return on investment on those projects is very, we look for energy savings projects that do 2 things. Obviously save the corporation money in the long term, but also improve the educational environment. Both of these do that. They'll provide better lighting at both the pool and the cafeteria. And then Mary Frank HVAC, we've already approved the unit we ordered, if you remember, back in December. This is the labor and all the other miscellaneous parts. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Recognizing this information has been disseminated to the board. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for the administration? Okay, hearing none. There are 9 motions that I will present related to the capital building improvement projects bid quotation awards. I will take one vote on the 9 motions. Do I have a motion to approve the Penn High School wrestling mat purchase from Resolite in the amount of $25,014.80? Award the mechanical chiller purchase at Horizon and North Point to Griffin Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $1,300,400. Award the door access controls purchase at district schools to Wireless Network Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $2,007,332. Award the security camera purchase at Meadows Edge and Mary Frank to Wireless Network Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $61,080. Award the construction of a storage building at Walt Disney to the Robert Henry Corporation in the amount of $188,388. Approve the purchase of the replacement lighting at Penn High School 2 all-phase electric supply for pool lighting retrofit materials to LED in the amount of $145,800. Kuntz Wagner Electric for pool lighting installation in the amount of $9,650. Martel Electric LLC for cafeteria lighting package in the amount of $42,885. And award the Mary Frank HVAC labor and materials to Gibson Lewis LLC in the amount of $819,900.
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Linsky. And we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of the school board meeting dates. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Each year, as the upcoming board meeting dates are developed, several things are taken into consideration. We try to avoid conflicts with school events and recess days, holidays, and school board related events offered by the Indiana School Board Association and the National School Boards Association. The administration recommends approval of the 2023-2024 board meeting dates as presented.
Board members, any questions or comments for Dr. Thacker?
Yeah, just a question, I guess, for the board. I know we, for offsite school board meetings, this year, the last one, we were able to stream online when we were at Penn High School. We brought that up January 23rd, I believe. Board member, Mr. Turnwald, back in November, asked us, the board to look at policy 164-5. And then I followed up at the January 23rd meeting that we were at LC Rogers for. So I was just wondering the status of that, because on our board docs, it says it was closed. I know we have the list of meetings for this next school year. There's 4 offsite ones: Horizon, Walt Disney, Penn High School, and Schmucker. And I just would like to understand, are we going to be streaming those offsite board meetings? Because I think it's right by our public that we're doing that. And if we aren't, I would ask that we consider that for our next board meeting, because just being proactive, the first offsite one is until October 9th, 2023 at Horizon. Right now, are we planning to stream those, or do we need, my question is, or do I need to request that, hey, next board meeting, can we consider putting that on the agenda?
I think it warrants further discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, because the topic on the table right now is just
Yes.
approving the meeting dates.
Yep, no, okay, perfect. I just want to be proactive since we have several months.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve the school board meeting dates for the 2023-2024 school year as presented by Dr. Thacker?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Real quick, so the discussion, when is this discussion going to take place?
We'll schedule it. I mean,
Like in a school board meeting, we say a lot of things a lot of times, but we never follow up. That's why I'm asking.
Mr. Chaffee,
Yes.
I told you that we'll discuss it. This is an issue that has to be treated carefully because we also are talking about video streaming images of children, many of whom are participating in these meetings, some of whom whose parents have not given permission for their images to be used by the corporation.
We don't
So
have to
this is
stream
something
that
that we need to tread very carefully with.
Yes,
We'll have another discussion about
we students come here and speak too. All I'm asking is the offsite events, the portions of the meeting that we can stream. I think we're doing our public a disservice if we do not stream those for them to be able to watch. Not everyone can be here from set. We're in 2 hours into this meeting tonight. Not everyone can come for 2-3 hours. And if they can't watch it during the meeting time, the great thing about streaming it is you can watch it the next day, next week, the next month. hey, a year from now, you can watch it. So I'm not asking for us, we can't stream certain parts of it. Completely understand that, but I think we're doing our public a disservice if we don't. Thank you.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll move on to business operational services discussion items. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. This is the first reading, and Mr. Ryan Sadi, PHM's Neola Associate, met with PHM School Board Policy Committee on March 2nd to review the current update to our board policies. I have the privilege of serving with the Board Policy Committee, which includes Board Attorney Jeff Johnson, Board Liaison Mr. Chris Riley, Ms. Lucia Ramey, and Mrs. Rachel Hugenboom. Following the committee's review, the revisions have been processed in-house to get the policies in a pre-adoption format, which is what is being presented to the board tonight. There are 6 revised policies, 1 revised bylaw, and 1 policy deletion scheduled for a first reading this evening. These 8 policies, bylaws, are the first group to undergo revisions from the most recent update. I'd like to ask the board attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson, to present the bylaws and policies to you.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. As Dr. Thacker just indicated, there are proposed revisions to 6 policies and 1 bylaw and deletion of 1 policy that are scheduled for this first reading this evening. The first is bylaw 131.1, bylaws and policies. The proposed revision to this bylaw is to allow board members to participate electronically in a meeting when they are revising bylaws and or policies. Number 2, policies 1521, 3121, and 4121, personal background checks, references, and mandatory reporting of convictions and substantiated child abuse and arrests. The proposed revisions to these policies include, first, adding mandatory termination of an employee who has been convicted of an offense that requires license revocation under Indiana Code 20, 28, 5, and 8C. And for your information, those offenses are kidnapping, criminal confinement, and rape. The second is setting forth that PHM may obtain an expanded criminal history check or expanded child protection index check if we have reason to believe that the applicant or the employee may have been guilty of criminal deviant conduct. The next is policy 8121, personal background checks, contracted services. The proposed revisions to this policy are, first, to require contractors or subcontractors who are likely to have ongoing contact with children to submit to a background check. And I can represent to the board, we are already doing that. We've been doing that for several years. Whenever there's going to be an employee of a contractor or a subcontractor that will be in the school when the children are in class, we have consistently required that provision to be added to the contract, and nobody's ever objected to it. So we're already doing that. The second item is to prohibit the board to contract with someone who has been convicted of a license revocation per Indiana Code 20, 28, 5, 8C, which were the 3 I read you just a minute ago. Next is requiring contractors and subcontractors to report to the superintendent any arrest or the filing of criminal charges within 2 days of said event. And lastly, with regard to policy 8121, PHM's right to obtain an expanded criminal history check or expanded child protection index check if PHM has reason to believe that the contractor employee has been charged with or convicted of the various crimes that are set forth in policy 8121. And I think there's 26 of those or something that I didn't list them all because there's so many. The next is policy 2464, programs for high ability students. The proposed revisions to this policy include, first, the board's plan for providing appropriate educational opportunities and experiences to high ability students must include: one, a committee with representatives selected from diverse groups representing the school and the PHM community. Two, a student identification system must have multifaceted assessments ensuring students not identified by traditional assessments due to economic disadvantage, cultural background, underachievement, or disabilities are in fact included. Three, development of local services for high ability students, including differentiated curriculum in core academic areas for each grade. Four, there has to be an evaluation of the high ability student program. And lastly, the high ability student program plan must be approved by this board and be made available for public inspection and filed with the Indiana Department of Education. Next policy is 8600 transportation. The proposed revision to this policy will exempt special purpose buses from the limitation placed on regular school buses of not traveling more than 200 miles out of state. And lastly, policy 2432, driver education. This policy should be deleted as PHM no longer offers driver's ed.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Board members, any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay. Thank you, sir, for your work. We'll move on to the hearing of visitors. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board on general topics under the hearing of visitors without registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during the hearing of visitors. Board Attorney Jeff Johnson will keep time and will let you know as your time is expiring. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may only speak once during this section of the agenda. Personnel issues are absolutely not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or to his designee. The board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors. Who'd like to go first? Yes, ma'am.
Janice, Janice Worrell, 16733 Jackson Road, South Bend. I'm here tonight to inform you of an incident that took place at my grandson's school. I am very upset about this. It goes way beyond bullying. This is what happened. My daughter was called in the afternoon on Thursday about 3 weeks ago and asked by the principal to come into the school because her son was threatened. When she went into the school, she was told that a little girl, 10 years old, in his classroom, went up to him and said, I quote, "I'm going to murder you." Then the little girl somehow slipped out of the classroom, came back in with a weapon and said, "I'm going to impale you." I'm horrified. I'm even more horrified that I talked to some people in this room already and they didn't know anything about it. As I am told, the little girl is still in the classroom, and my grandson, who is multiply handicapped, and when you guys talk about exceptional children, you don't meet the needs of somebody that is severely handicapped. He's in a wheelchair. He's multiply handicapped. He has no arms, no hands. He has arms with thumbs on them. His arms are webbed. He cannot protect himself. He cannot talk. He cannot walk. He wears hearing aids and glasses, and he has a feeding tube into his jejunum, not even his stomach. He is not being taken care of properly at his school. This is horrifying. And then I found out that a police report was not made. I have been reading IDEA. I have been reading all that goes on with schools, and you are not meeting his needs. He is being abused by the school. He is being discriminated against by the school, all because he is severely handicapped. I want answers within a week to why a police report was not filed, why a child protective services report was not filed, or I'm going to take this further.
Thank you very much for bringing that to the board's attention, Dr. Thacker. Can you have somebody from the administration reach out to her and then report back to the board, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Who's next?
Sandy Pontius, 30909 Stardust Court, Granger, 46530. Students are often punished punitively for the use and possession of tobacco products, including electronic nicotine delivery devices, which are vapes like Juul or Mr. Fogg, without any regards to the tobacco industry's history of direct marketing to youth or the phases of addiction. Tobacco industry documents dating back to as early as the 1950s show that the tobacco industry intentionally and strategically studied and marketed tobacco use to youth in order to recruit replacement smokers to stay in business. According to a 2016 study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health, there is specific evidence that e-cigarette marketing exposure, especially at point of sale, is associated with ever and current e-cigarette use among middle and high school students. I'd also like to point out that research shows penalties like expulsion and suspension contribute to negative educational and life outcomes, undermining schools' goals for supporting healthy student development, which you may already know. But using punitive measures like suspension and expulsion to penalize student violations of a school commercial tobacco policy is not reasonable, considering the targeted marketing, science of addiction, and long-term consequences associated with expulsion and suspension. Effective school policies attempt to address the underlying addiction to commercial tobacco instead of purely punitive measures, which don't deter continued use and actually may exacerbate the problem as they just go home and continue to vape. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the most effective approaches to helping youth quit tobacco use are through counseling and education. Here is an example of what good policy would be. The first violation will result in confiscation of tobacco products, notification of parents and guardians, offer student information about available cessation programs and resources such as This Is Quitting, Live Vape Free, or 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And at least one of the following: a student meeting, an individual student assessment with designated staff, such as a guidance counselor, school nurse, counseling service, etc., to discuss commercial tobacco use and school policy, and student participation in a tobacco education program such as Catch My Breath or Vaping Know the Truth. Second violation, confiscation of tobacco products, notification of parents, offering cessation resources, as well as a student meeting, an individual student assessment with designated staff, with parents and or guardians, and student participation in tobacco education programs such as the American Lung Association's Alternative to Suspensions program in depth. Third, and any subsequent violations shall result in all of the above, and at least one of the following: a student meeting, an individual student assessment with designated staff, and educational community service hours.
Minutes have expired, ma'am.
Thank you. I do have toolkits there for everyone if you're interested in looking at them after.
Mrs. Pontius, before you go, thank you for that speech. Do you have a copy of that speech? There were a lot of ideas in there. I'd like to take a look at it.
Absolutely. And I will give you this one, and I can also email it.
Can you give it to Mrs. Hugenboom, please?
Yes. It's kind of interesting that you were talking about a school policies today. That was not on purpose. We need to be here for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Riley, it also leads me to wonder, when will we get a plan for how the Juul lawsuit money will?
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we participated in a class action lawsuit and received a portion of a settlement. Do we have any idea when that settlement will be dispersed?
It's expected that it's going to be in sections.
Yes.
The first largest payment is expected to be received in September, maybe early October. Then there will be successive December 15 for the next several years payments. But the first payment should be, I think, somewhere in the area of $90,000.
And that money we have dedicated to use for raising awareness about the hazards of using vapes e-cigarettes and whatever. So that's why I want to take a look at your speech. Thank you very much.
We are here to help. I have a youth coordinator as well who loves to work in the schools and wants to come in and do some help. Dr. Packer knows me, so we can help again.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Who's next? Mrs. Witt?
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. You have my address. Interesting that the teachers got to speak at 3.1. How did they know what was going on there? CRT can just be called word salad at this point. Your employees are being trained on how to incorporate tenets through cultural responsive teaching, professional development training, and Lilly Counseling Initiative training. I'm happy to hear that teachers won't deviate from their certified curriculum and speak on topics anymore, such as social justice, group identity, prejudice, discrimination, oppression, power, privilege, white supremacy, microaggression, implicit bias, anti-racism. And just when my daughter was showed the implicit bias video, it literally in the credits said PHM lists critical race. It was in the credit. So you don't know what it is, but that's what you put in the video. These tenets teach that America is racist, American government is racist, and it's a revolution whose goal is equity. You only get there when you punish some for having more, being smarter, or working harder. This is socialism. Maybe you, board and superintendent, don't recognize the nefariousness or are too busy to look into the details or won't say no because you don't want to be perceived as racist. Dr. Thacker has been quoted in our local paper saying, "We think there could be a different term or different way to approach that when discussing the tenets." Our very own PR person, when asked if there will be explicit lessons on those topics, she said, maybe or maybe not. Maybe or maybe not, that was her quote. The AFT, NEA, NSBA, American Association of School Administrators all support the tenets. Anyone writing a thesis in this room for PHM supports it as well. Mrs. Black admitted it in her thesis. Is it PHM's position that our teachers, principals, board members, school psychologists subscribe to these ideologies? Is our district still academically focused or okay with allowing biased curriculum to take over? If none of the buzzwords are allowed in the classroom, what is my recourse as a parent whose child is forced to sit quietly and listen to a teacher go rogue? If your focus in the classroom is on race, gender, ideology, soliciting potential sexual conversations of minors through GSA classroom discussion or flags, having struggle sessions, equity, not equality, pronoun changes that don't need parental notice, certain political activisms allowed where others not, what exactly is your goal? Because this path just looks like indoctrination. You've broken the triangle by not taking parents' concerns serious. Whatever you created in 2021 caused division, divisive rhetoric, confusion, and lies. Stop pissing on our legs and telling us it's raining.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Witt. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Lori Ponsler. I live at 1605 Kingsman Way in Osceola. And I actually have a different perspective than a couple people who have spoken tonight. Quick background, I've been married to my wife for 5 years. We have 2 young boys. Ace is 3 and Bo is 20 months. And we're just starting our journey with the PHM school district. Ace is about to complete his first year of preschool through the Pen Pals program. And it's been amazing for him. We've found it to be inclusive, warm and welcoming, and it's certainly getting him started on the right track to love school and love being at school with his teachers. My questions and concerns are about the recently signed bill 1608 that is now law about not teaching human sexuality pre-K through 3rd grade, and then of course the pronoun aspect as well. I'm focused on the human sexuality portion in the term of, what is the definition? How does PHM define it, or how does the state define it? And I'm looking for guidance in terms of, how does the curriculum change for those grades? How do the daily conversations change for those young kids? And how do we keep it to be a positive and inclusive environment for all different types of families? I know that family is discussed in these young grades, and what does your family look like and how is it different than everyone else's, whatever. Even if it's drawing a picture of a family, I want to make sure that it stays positive for my kids without taking anything away from any other child. A quick example is I volunteered for a Valentine's Day party, and a little girl asked me where Ace's dad was, and I said, Ace has 2 moms and his other mom's at work. I don't know the rules now that this is a law. Am I allowed to say that? Am I not allowed to say that? And when will I know the rules around that. I certainly do not want to cross any lines. But to me, that was an age appropriate response. She didn't have any questions and that was it. So I'm looking for guidance, and when will I find out the changes that are being made because this has now become a law? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback. Who's next? Mrs. Glassburn?
Hi, good evening. Thanks to our representatives like Jake Teshka, Indiana's school choice program that awards vouchers to attend private schools will now include most upper middle class families. As an example, with the new income limits, a family of 4 can make up to $222,000 a year, and their children will still qualify for a voucher. Pathways to a voucher have also been eliminated, meaning that our incoming kindergartners or students who have never attended public school before can now take advantage of this expansion in educational choice. As such, now more than ever, all schools, including PHM, will have to market and improve their quality of education. So I come before you tonight to ask this body, what do you plan to do about the effects this choice expansion will have specifically on PHM? How are you going to change from educrats with carefully crafted sound bites and social media posts that look great to those not paying attention, but quickly fall apart under the slightest bit of scrutiny, to a group that can humbly evaluate your shortcomings? What is your plan if and when you see a drop in enrollment? Dr. Thacker, you have reported that non-resident students are a huge source of revenue for PHM. However, what our non-resident students also offer you is diversity. The student body is far more diverse than ever before, enriching our schools with various cultures, languages, diversity of thought, and socioeconomic spectrums. Roughly 20% of our student body makeup is non-resident, with a projected increase. And yet, non-resident families have zero representation. If it is PHM's position that non-resident students are a huge source of revenue, is it also PHM's position that non-resident families do not deserve a voice? You want our revenue the same way you want your property tax revenue, but only one of those groups gets a say in how their schools are governed. Do you really represent all families? I have non-resident students attend school levels now, all school levels for 11 years, and the message has always been we should lay low and simply be grateful that we get to cross the altar of excellence, as if our children are nothing more than a charity project or another statistic you can use when convenient. My proposed solution is to create a non-resident parent group that can meet with the superintendent and the school board to discuss the dynamic needs of non-resident families. School choice is here to stay, like it or not. Why not be the first school to actually recognize more than just monetary value in your non-resident students? And you can begin by giving their families a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Glassburn. Who's next?
My name is Debbie Serrani, 1803 Larkspur, Mishawaka, Indiana. All these things that they're saying are part of what I want to talk about. I pick up my grandchild at Discovery Middle School, and I've noticed there's a lot of out of the area license plates. I've also noticed I have to wait a long time to pick up my grandson because he is moving to my neighborhood now, and he's living at my house with my son. The thing that upsets me is to see all the buses going away from the school, and there's not a lot of students on the buses. Parents are picking them up. Are the majority of these parents out of the area schools, students? If they are, and as far as them allowing that many students come in that are non-residents, what money do you get from them? Do you get it from the state? You know, is our tax dollars that we are in Penn High School paying for those non-resident schools? I would like an answer to that, and I would like it soon, because she said there were 20% of the students that are non-resident. I don't think that's a bad thing, but my sister, who I want to address, her grandson is special needs. He's at a Meadows Edge, and probably about 7 years ago, when Penn started allowing all this enrollment of other students, his classroom was eliminated. So they needed a fifth kindergarten classroom. So the special ed classroom is eliminated. Those kids have to be in regular classrooms. Soren is suffering from sitting in a chair all day long. This is ridiculous, and it needs to change. And if the reason it is because we're allowing non-resident students to go to the school, That needs to stop, or somehow that needs to be addressed to get more money to pay for more rooms for special ed students. Another thing I want to bring up, Dr. Thatcher has started a scholarship fund for $1,000 for a person of color, not white students, and they're not eligible for the scholarship. I understand the intent of the scholarship to provide funds for children who may not have some opportunity of those that are more fortunate. I understand we are trying to build a more inclusive culture and to teach our children everyone deserves an equal opportunity for higher education. How does eliminating of certain races support this teaching? I believe it's racist, and I don't think that any race should be eliminated from a scholarship. I think it's wrong, especially coming from the superintendent. Another thing I noticed, and I saw an article about, there was some kind of a conference at Notre Dame for girls, and white girls had to pay, and they were not eligible for the scholarship that was come from. That came from Grissom Middle School and Discovery. I can't believe this is happening in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sardi. On the questions that you asked relative to non-resident enrollment, those issues were addressed at a school board meeting a couple months ago. But after the conclusion of this meeting, if you'll give your information to Mrs. Hugenboom, we'll get you that information, okay? Who's next?
Dr. Linsky, I've got a question about the Meadows Edge expansion. Will it create more space for exceptional education?
Yeah, so what, I think 2 or 3 years ago, we added a single classroom for that purpose, addressing this very topic. And then recently we're completing
It did not go through special ed.
that was up to the principal. It opened up a room. You were correct. I don't know who they placed in there.
It wasn't the special ed.
And then currently we're adding, I think, 7 classrooms currently to Meadows Edge Elementary. I don't know if you've been out there recently.
Will that be done?
It's going to be done
Will it go to
August 1.
special ed?
Yeah, there'll be room.
I want to guarantee and I want it in writing.
Yeah, I would too. Like to have that in writing.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's keep moving. Anybody else like to address the board? Mr. Jones?
Brian Jones, I live in Granger. I'd like to request that action be taken for an investigation into potential violations of the 2020 resolution. In part, the resolution reads, "We, the members of the board and administration, acknowledge that we must urgently enact motivated by racial animus and bias, shall implement all reforms necessary to ensure that all are treated with dignity and respect to bring about positive change, indiscrimination, and secure equality for all. Labeling others as violent extremists and white supremacists qualify as racial animus, bias, and discriminatory actions. And as President Riley stated last meeting, having a resolution rather than guidelines requires us to take disciplinary measures. Actions taken by members of the following PHM groups suggest that they support bias, discriminatory statements, and actions of animus through their conduct and behaviors and subject to disciplinary measures. The PHM superintendent, member of the PHM Board of Trustees, administrators in the Office of DEI, communications and public relations, teachers union officials and officers, members of faculty and staff, and as much as I hate to say this one, some that work with the PHM Education Foundation. Those actions and behaviors include not speaking out against hateful, bias, discriminatory hate speak that was written in favor of supporting current board members. Silence is complicity. Openly and publicly opposing the targets of bias, animus through adopting logos on social media, wearing campaign gear, actively campaigning against the targets of biased animus after remaining silent against the smears. Supporting these statements through liking these comments on social media platforms. The widespread distribution of biased articles portraying individuals in a negative light with the intent to influence public opinion against others. I would like to ask any board member if they would like to begin the process to determine what, if any, violations of the 2020 resolution have occurred, and if necessary, what disciplinary action should be taken. If any vote were to be taken, there are a few of you that would need to recuse yourself due to a conflict of interest. It's also worth noting that the culture of any organization comes from leadership, with their actions absorbed and imitated almost unconsciously by those they lead. So what does it say about PHM leadership that divisive, racially charged statements intended to create animus were created by former students and endorsed through likes on social media by current students? Even our most esteemed group, the Kingsman Court, jumped in. This is what you've created through your leadership, and it only gets resolved if accountability is demanded to the policies that you put in place. As stated in the resolution and quoted by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anybody else like to address the board? Oh, Mr. Jones, you want to get your?
You can tell me, creator.
So agenda item 3.01, this has got to be said. I wasn't going to speak about this, but agenda item 3.01 states it's the adoption of the agenda. The adoption of the agenda, right? Where in that does it say critical race theory? Where does it say critical race theory in agenda item 3.01? It doesn't. But magically, out of nowhere, you had an entire parade of people that had prepared speeches on critical race theory for an agenda item that mentions nothing about critical race theory. Why is that? I think we deserve answers. Why did the woke peanut gallery comes up here and they have prepared speeches about something that's not even mentioned in the agenda item? Because I can tell you right now, there's a whole room of parents that would have loved to speak about that if we would have known it was critical race theory. Would have loved to counter their arguments, like Danielle Black. She basically contradicted her own thesis. In her thesis, which is available online, by the way, realnewsmichiana.com, she writes, in the fall after the event of the summer of 2020, I entered my public speaking class with some new curriculum ideas, pushing for greater racial awareness and justice. She wrote, while then describing her goal of destroying a monolithic whites-only viewpoint. She later goes on in the same thesis to talk about anti-police lessons that she taught in multiple classes. Her own thesis contradicts what she said. Okay, nobody is saying that you teach a class called critical race theory. We know the class doesn't exist. Hello? With the content, the tenets, the principles of critical race theory. Your own teacher of the year is bragging about teaching them in her own thesis. This is happening. Thank you. So anyways, when you do things like the white supremacy pyramid, okay, we talked about it a lot, but it didn't magically create itself, right? It didn't magically pop up into the curriculum. Whoa. They say, well, that has nothing to do with us. Okay, it got approved. The superintendent reads this curriculum. It gets discussed. It gets approved, okay? So when you said any denial of white privilege means that you're racist in this curriculum, this was read. Okay, Mr. White talked about this with Dr. Thacker. It's in their job description, okay? You guys approved it. You said, yeah, we want our kids to know this stuff. But then the word got out. Parents found out about it. It got written about. So then you got rid of it, but there was no explanation of how it got approved. Who thought it was a great idea? Because somebody did. It didn't magically create itself. It didn't just appear into our curriculum, right? The unconscious bias. The video called The Look. See, the video called The Look, that was in last year's.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas.
All righty then.
Who's next? Mrs. Cartwright?
Mr. Johnson, may I ask a question before my time starts?
If you choose to use your time asking school board members or school administrators questions, and if they answer as part of your time, you get 3 minutes.
Fine. First of all, clearly I must have donated to the wrong school board campaign to gain priority seating to skip the line outside. I was standing outside at 6:20 and I was seated in the lobby. I didn't see CRT on the agenda, so how did everyone know to sign up in advance to discuss this when it wasn't even listed on the agenda? Since you refuse to support a resolution for a guideline and vehemently deny anything CRT is being taught, oops, even though you continue to say you can't define it, but somehow know that you aren't incorporating it, I assume anyone is free to sue PHM if our children are taught tenets of CRT, since you're made aware of it. My child's teacher told the class that they removed certain material from a slide deck because they had complaints and didn't want to get in trouble, then proceeded to teach the material anyway. off the record. It was taken off the slide deck, but was taught anyway. Kind of weird. Not long ago, we received an email about a few instances at one of our daughter's school referring to misinformation being discussed in the community. So let's talk about that. We have a communication problem here at PHM. Staff and administrators have ignored my concerns, questions, requests, and emails, and I know I'm not the only one. The problem is that they see you doing the same thing over and over again, so they think it's okay. The problem starts at the top, right here. What's the saying? It runs downhill. You feel like you're above us and don't owe us any answers or explanations. So they do the same things. You need to lead by example. A big part of this job is having difficult and uncomfortable conversations instead of ignoring them. This is the email that I sent. I hope your day is going well. Has there been any person removed from Penn High School by security, employees, law enforcement at any time during the current school year while students were present? I recently learned about this potential breach of security and would like to know if it is true, and if so, when did it occur? To date, I have not received a response, nor do I believe PHM has addressed this breach of security question from the last board meeting. Do I assume it's true? It's a serious issue that as a parent, I deserve to know the answer to. So moving forward, if you don't want so-called misinformation to make its way through the community, I highly suggest that you start communicating better with your parents and stakeholders, and that you answer all questions, even the hard and uncomfortable ones. You were elected to serve the PHM community in its entirety, not just part of it. Mr. Riley, you and I spoke after the school board debate in the fall, and I told you that's what we needed. We needed answers to questions that we had. And you told me we're going to have more conversations like this, like that. And that was 7 months ago. We haven't had anything. So I'm going to end with these 3 questions. When are we going to see the open discussions? Ms. Roach, where did you get those emails? And what is the social media policy?
Expired. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Cartwright. Anybody else? Okay, is there anybody in our overflow room who would like to address the board? Mrs. Hugenboom, anybody joining us online who'd like to address the board?
No, there are not.
Okay, we'll move on to board reports and requests. Board members, anything to report or request?
Yeah, we got several. First, Debbie, correct? Your name's Debbie. To answer your question on Dr. Thacker's scholarship, March 27th board meeting, I had sat down with him about 10 days prior to that, and he assured me moving forward every school year in the future. So for example, next school year, that will not be a part of the curriculum for that scholarship. Also briefly to highlight on your question about taxpayer dollars, the main portion of local property taxes go to the operations fund, which fund high-level administration. So that would be like the administration sitting at this table, not the board, but the administrators here, support staff, and then capital improvements. So any of these capital expenditures we approved earlier potentially would fall under that, while the education fund is mainly, the biggest portion is teacher salaries. So briefly, I know there's way more into the minutia, but high level to answer your question on that. Also, Anastasia, I think you brought up a great point. And that was something that I've been wondering. I know in the past we've had it provided, but do we have the latest and greatest information from like a demographer on what our population of K through 12 students look like for our in-district population? I graduated from PHM 9 years ago, and it's been pretty stagnant, roughly around 11,000 students every year for the past decade. And now I think we're at about 20% out of district. So I would like to understand what our out of district student population was starting like 2013, and then if we could see like 2018 and then 2023. With that, I also would like to understand the number of students that could potentially attend PHM schools K through 12. So this is where like the demographer would come into play potentially. That the percentage of students that are actually coming to PHM in 2013, then 2018, then 2023. Because if we're remaining stagnant, for example, say there's X amount of students in 2013, but now we're in 2023 and we've got a greater percentage of our students out of district. That means there's a greater percentage of our in-district students seeking out of district schools or private schools. But also it might be we truly are decreasing K through 12 in student population, maybe with an aging demographic. So following up on her point, I think it's important that we take a look at that. It's important with the new state legislation. We need to be visionaries and make sure we're focused and proactive to continue to better as we move into the future on that point. Brian, I think you brought up a good point. I think I should not comment personally because obviously I was involved in the school board race this past fall. I was labeled some of the things that were on that, but I would turn to the board attorney on that. I don't feel I should be in the position to comment on that. And then Tina, I believe you were talking about what Ben Dallas brought up at the April 24th board meeting. We received the board on April 25th. It's ironic that I printed this out. April 25th, we received a response. Has this response been communicated at all to our public?
I sent it to Ben's personally.
Okay, so what about just all of our parents? Because it was brought up in a public meeting. I think maybe we should communicate that.
And I specifically asked.
So
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Not to you guys.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Just following up on some of the parent concerns, I think it's important that we follow up with them and not just say we're going to discuss. Pointed that out earlier tonight. I feel a lot of the things I personally bring up, whether it's in board meetings or email communications, they're not, it's a lot of words. It's no meat to the bone. There's no weight to making a difference, in my opinion, on trying to be proactive, making a difference, bringing up the bottom tier. Because there's a lot of great things about PHM schools. There's areas we can improve. And that's what we need to focus on. We had a member tonight speak on vaping. I'm part of the generation that was, when I was in high school, that was coming predominantly into the market. That vaping is a serious, serious issue for this student, the student of this generation. And I think the numbers that you see out there are probably underreported. The amount of kids, whether in schools or now into their college years or out in the workforce using vape, it's pretty concerning to me. Now to my specific board report requests, a couple things that I wanted to address. Specifically first on school resource officers, cops that are in our schools. What is like our policies on SROs being able to intervene in situations, whether it's maybe a fight between students or certain things where they have to respond? What is our policy on that, Dr. Thacker?
Why don't we give you specific information that would be written, would be helpful.
Well, not just
the
me,
police-
them.
We'll make it public.
I'd like to hear it.
When? Like when will we make it public?
We'll make it public
When?
as soon as we get the information.
I also would like to know how that relates to other local school districts such as Wani, Fargo, South Bend School Corporation. Certain policies I'm under the understanding of might be in, I just want to see where we stand on that front. So I would like, whenever it's communicated to us, I believe that should be communicated to all of our parents, teachers, students, faculty, anyone throughout the district.
Mr. Chaffee, could you explain to me one more time? What was the question?
I want to
SROs.
understand all the roles of our SROs in our schools and then what they are allowed to do in regards to intervening in situations. I know they have to follow certain state and federal laws in certain situations, but I also want to understand what the policies are for them and how they also relate to other local school districts. Because I mean, I think every board member here agrees school safety of not just our students, our teachers, administrators, support staff is our number one priority. I think that's an obvious no-brainer, right? I mean, right? So
Is your curiosity about them not getting to do everything they need to do, or that they're getting to do too much?
I'm just trying to understand first so we can move forward and make sure we're prioritizing safety. Because we always talk about supporting X, Y, and Z, but I really want to see where's the meat to the bone? Are we actually doing X, Y, and Z? Not just, hey, bravo, X, Y. You get what I'm saying? So.
Yeah.
So when can we expect to see something like that?
What you're asking for something that's a little more comprehensive. We're going to make an analytical comparison of ours plus the other school districts that are in the surrounding areas. So we'll have to rely on them to also provide us with some data for comparison. So we're at, it's a collaborative effort. So we'll get the information. It's just that I can't give you an exact timeline because I can't tell you exactly when they're going to provide us the information.
Okay. So I guess following up on that, we obviously had a very contentious vote earlier tonight, or a very highly debated vote. And I think all seven of us agree. Our standpoints might be different on it. But I think we can all agree, we come from the same place in our heart that we're trying to support our teachers on that front. So speaking to that, fellow board members, wouldn't you want to be informed of any situations that potentially a faculty or staff member might be injured on the job? Yes?
I would.
You would?
Absolutely.
I 100% agree. April 21st, 2023, at Schmucker this morning, a student became escalated and eloped from the building. The CPI team was notified and the student was in sight of an adult at all times. Once outside, the student ran to the fence by the football field. Tommy Teeter was notified and offered support along with school SROs. The parent of the student was notified and then came to the school to take the student home. We receive incident reports. We don't get the details, but to be able, if we get questions from the public, to properly inform them. Where in that email does it talk about a faculty member or staff member getting punched in the face? Why were we not informed? I think all of us board members would want to know that. I want to know that. Not only I'm as for and protecting teachers as possible. I know during the school board campaign, there were some things said about me that's not true. And there was some things said about other people that aren't true. Not only am I for supporting students and making sure they're properly educated once they get in the real world, we need to properly support our teachers in the classroom with unruly student behavior, regardless of the situation, with the right policies, whether it's teachers, administrators at all levels, because they deserve it too. Why were we not informed? What else haven't we been informed about? What other incidents occur at our schools that we have not been emailed about lately? I think that's a question this board deserves the answer to, and I think that's a question the public deserves an answer to. And speaking to that incident, if there is video footage of it, I would like to see it in an executive session from that. This email we received at 4:01 p.m., April 21st, 2023. So that is concerning. I know none of the other board members outside Mr. Garrett is saying anything, but I hope the rest of you echo the same concerns that I feel on that. And I can't stress that enough. That being said, also, I would like, if it's possible, if we could have like a weekly or monthly incident log of things. For example, let's talk about Penn High School. What are the incidents on a monthly basis? I know we receive these emails, but it would be nice to see it in like a monthly or weekly log and the course correction we're having, or what policies we're following. Because we're the policymakers of the district. So I would like to see, as one board member, what policies our administration is enacting to hold certain students, teachers, etc., accountable, regardless of whatever the incident is. And we're only going to become better by that. And then following to that, one second, make sure I have all my thoughts gathered. So earlier tonight, we talked about handbooks and what we're gonna vote on in preceding school board meetings. In the Penn High School handbook, I believe, it is page 22, and I believe it would be trickled down in the middle school and elementary levels. Pages might be off a little bit on attendance. Attendance, it states, it is imperative that students be in attendance each school day in order to maintain consistency in their learning. Active participation in classroom activities fosters collaboration, an important part of learning that cannot be replaced easily with individual study. And aligning our goals with federal attendance requirements through the Every Student Succeeds Act, students should have a 96% attendance rate. It goes on to say later on in the next paragraph, one of the most important work habits that employers look for in hiring and promoting a worker is dependability and coming to work every day and on time. Longtime teacher gave me the approval to cite some of their review they recently submitted. This teacher has worked at Penn High School, potentially longer than I've been alive. I know the teacher was there when I was in high school. In regards to attendance, the teacher states, another problem with student engagement is the lack of an attendance policy. This teacher has 151 students across several classes. 35% of those students, so 57 of the 151 students, have absences greater than 10% for this teacher's class. This would be direct contradiction of next year's student handbook for the high school. We have to abide by 96% attendance rate or there's consequences. So are we really holding our students accountable to make sure they're properly educated once they get in the workforce? This teacher suggests certain things for improvements. Later states in their review, when I finally reached a parent, it was usually beneficial. This person does not need to be a dean. Also in regards to following up and answering questions, I think there's a lot of frustrations. I mean, as a board member, I'm frustrated. I don't believe a lot of questions I ask are answered. It sounds like, I mean, the community speaking, it's a constant thing. No one follows up with them, it seems like, or at least they voice their frustrations every board meeting. Also, right here by this teacher, also teachers need to know in caps, if and in caps, what action has been taken. Currently, we are not given any notification or feedback on what occurs as a result of our referral. How can a teacher properly educate in their classroom when they don't even know what accountability measures are being taken by the students in their classes? How are we giving them the tools to succeed and thrive in the classroom? I mean, right there. Oh, let's continue on. So this teacher highlights several things throughout this review, such as student engagement, the need of a phone policy, the attendance issue, ease and accessibility of online classes. I think that goes to kids. There's a lot more online classes, and this is more than potentially a PHM thing. I remember prior to my senior year, I could take econ and government online. I got my tonsils removed and knocked them out in a day and a half online. Do you think I really learned what econ and government were in that day and a half? Probably not. And there's a lot of students that fly through all of these online classes. I was provided examples of what a schedule looks like nowadays for kids taking online classes. And whereas when I was in high school, it might be one online class where you could take econ and government, it looks like several nowadays. How are we holding those kids accountable? Because as this teacher states about online classes, when we were asked to look and develop the curriculum for online classes, it was presented as credit recovery. For that reason, we developed what we did. If this is now an option to replace classes, the curriculum needs to be re-evaluated. So in conclusion, this teacher states, if we could start the year with new academic standards, attendance policy, phone policy, we could also provide better guidelines for a dress code which should eliminate sports bras, hoodies, and hats, which ironically, I'm pretty sure a sports bra would be considered an undergarment. Page 28 of our high school handbook for 23-24 states, at no point in time should any undergarment be visible. Same stuff can be applied to men, of course, as well, with sagging of pants, etc. So we stated here, but are we actually going to hold our students accountable when they don't dress properly, dress for success, which I think it even states about our dress code. It states, yeah, the dress code is intended to encourage students to dress for success and come to school properly prepared to participate in the education process. So that's a concern. But in closing, she continued, or it was on, right now our students and teachers believe nothing really matters because the guidelines, we like guidelines, not policies, because when you have a policy, you got to hold people accountable. That's why there's not a social media policy. There's just guidelines. That's why that you guys, as a majority of the board, didn't want to follow the IDOE, which clearly we're following the IDOE on other things that were brought up on the student handbook for 23-24. All Mr. Garrett has been asking for 15 months was to support, and also what Dr. Thacker provided to the public, what the IDOE stated, but we unfortunately did not do that. But state, because the guidelines, if any, are so loose or completely absent. I spoke with the teacher the other day, and she said, "Who are we? When I started here, I thought we had a mission and an identity, but I don't know anymore." This teacher later goes on to say, "I'm old and am learning there are a lot of hills that I cannot die on, but watching our academic standards decline is not something I can do. I am not alone, but I know others hesitate to speak up. My hope is you understand that while I am speaking alone, I am the voice of many. I used to sit back and hope a veteran teacher would speak up when we held common concerns." Later goes on in closing to say, ties this into sports. I think it's a great comparison. You wouldn't be able to run a successful or disciplined team in regards to coaching if they, number one, miss 50%, 40%, or even 10% of the practices. Number two, were on their phones during practice. Number three, played Little League ball in place of high school travel ball in the summer. And I will go as far to say they wouldn't play or perform as well without a standard uniform. The teams would be mediocre and probably disengaged no matter how good or hard you coach them. It is not a perfect analogy, but you can understand what I am saying. So tying that back to our governance compact, the mission statement, as I read earlier, wasn't planning on reading it earlier, states, our mission is to provide an educational environment for students to reach their highest academic achievement. We will prepare them to be responsible, healthy, contributing citizens who have acquired the skills to be lifelong learners ready to adapt to a changing world. So I would ask, probably will be ignored, that we have a special meeting in regards to what it actually looks like. I know there's a lot of words, some of these meetings, we have a lot of words, but like action, like what does it actually look like? For example, I brought up one example earlier, failing grade. What does that mean? 0, or does that mean 5.9 out of 10? What does that mean? Because 5.9 out of 10, that student has a way better chance still of getting a better grade. But if they didn't participate, they should not get a 5.9 out of 10. They should get a 0. So I would ask that as policy 164.2 special meetings would be called for the following purposes. Point A, to enable the board to concentrate and take action on a single problem or set of problems. I think there are a lot of issues highlighted there. And I would hope the board, specifically President Riley, Vice President McCullough, and Superintendent Dr. Thacker, the three of you consider that, because I know at least you guys are the three that make the agenda, and we have pretty much no say on that. A lot of times my emails go even unresponded to for several weeks, and then they don't even answer the question that I asked. But that'll be for further meetings on some of those things. So my focus, I mean, how do we move forward and make improvements to drive change for the better? No doubt it's a complex answer, but the worst thing we can do is turn a blind eye, like currently it's happening, of things such as this, and pretend it's not there. And I think that we need to look at ways we can drive positive change on these fronts, not just with words, but with actions, having a strong, bold vision. Because I know, as Dr. Thacker says all this time, quotes John Maxwell, everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's true. That is 100% true. I completely agree with that statement. And then in closing, just one other request, policy 0143, I believe it is. 1 second. Yes, board member authority. Speaking to, I know Debbie brought up earlier tonight, understanding where taxpayer dollars are going. And I think that's incredibly important for us as board members to understand that. I know some of those things can't be communicated publicly in regards to personnel and compensation, but I would like to request all compensation for all ESC faculty, whether that's administration, anyone that, and at the school level, that would be tied to the operations fund, because that's local taxpayer money that's funding that. And as a board member, it's my duty as elected by the public to understand how public tax dollars are being spent throughout our school district. So I would request that, according to policy 0143, I have the right to that in executive session, which I will be sure to return the records at the conclusion of the executive session to the custody of the superintendent, as it states in that policy. So I would request that. I know in the past I requested that. Had some other things going on at the time, and questions were somewhat answered, but not really answered. So that concludes my statement. Sorry for dragging this out. I know it's been a 3-hour meeting. Appreciate everyone for coming tonight. But thank you.
Okay. Other board members, reports or requests?
Yes, I just want to follow up on my request to try and find a measurement. This commencement program maybe reminded me to try and find a measurement for the level of engagement and after school and extracurriculars of our student body.
Okay, fair enough. Other reports, requests? Hearing none, move to announcements. Next regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene on Monday, June the 26th, 2023 at 7 p.m. here at the ESC. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I so moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. We're adjourned at 10:01.